been a long road since the original Kicker christened that first pickup truck. It kicked off a car audio renaissance, and upgrading your music in a vehicle was a requirement. America's music machines became living loud over your passion, your emotion, your existence. Outdoors or on the open road, your sound is Kicker.
Do not attempt to adjust this transmission. We have assumed control.
The year is 1980. Music fights for its very survival in an acoustically desolate wasteland man calls automobile. Enter Steve Irby, a man whose love of music helped end this scourge forever and forge a path for modern car audio to follow. A humble musician with a passion for quality sound, Mr. Irby is a man who feels it is his destiny to provide a sanctuary for mobile audio. Welcome. Join us this evening as we venture back to the very night a young Steve Irby gains his inspiration to create the legacy we know today as Kicker Performance Audio. Though he does not realize it now, by this time tomorrow, Mr. Irby will have completed blueprints for the original Kicker and champion the war against mobile audio inequality. Tonight, Mr. Irby's prayers will be answered as he begins his quest into the Q Zone. Kicker L7QB8. With roots dating back to Kicker's inception, Mr. Irby and his team of engineers have achieved an unrivaled level of design and functionality. With extraordinary bass and a minimal footprint, the L7QB8 utilizes a seamless quarter-inch extruded aluminum housing, allowing optimal internal air volume for the subwoofer. This exclusive design provides exceptional strength and stability. Like the original Kicker, the L7QB8 incorporates a unique passive radiator to minimize required airspace while optimizing the efficiency and frequency response of the subwoofer. Opposite the passive radiator, the L7QB8 is equipped with the all-new 8-inch L7 square subwoofer. The 2016 L7 features an aluminum basket for exceptional strength and thinned aluminum heat sinks for efficient heat dissipation. Kicker's blue lace spider, solo cone 360-degree back bracing, and a laser-etched cone brace combine as a single ultra-rigid unit. The result is increased clarity, higher volume, and added reliability. The square cone features over 20% more surface area than round subwoofers. It's attached to a Santoprene surround, then stitched to the cone for long life and durability. This surround features Kicker's patented ribbed corners, which fully dictates cone motion and extends surround life. At the base of the unit, a pair of custom-formed flanges integrate seamlessly with an extremely low-profile mounting system, consisting simply of a mounting plate and bar. Once installed, the overall height of the enclosure is only 9.5 inches. This profile is small enough to work perfectly in countless trucks, sedans, and SUVs. Once again, Kicker sets a new standard with the groundbreaking design and unparalleled performance of the all-new L7QB8.
frequencies detected emanating from the heavens. Saucer-shaped objects confirmed all over the world. Unidentified flying K saucers spotted delivering Kicker's amazing new Comp-Q superwoofer. Built for precision, built for abuse, built for the future and benefit of mankind. Kicker's new Comp-Q woofer leaves audiences astounded and amazed as it reveals subtleties in their favorite music in a way that is sure to make women blush and grown men cry. The surround features Kicker's variable cross-section high-roll design, allowing extended cone travel and excellent cone control. It's firmly attached to the cone, reinforced with our iconic stitching. Betsy Ross would be so proud. The injection molded solo cone and laser X cone brace combined in a single ultra-rigid unit. Venting in the brace relieves performance-robbing back pressure. All this adds up to very low distortion and amazingly clean low bass. The progressive roll blue lace spider adds even more cone control at maximum excursion. The woven tinsel leads are sandwiched between the spider and the lace for durability and long life and to prosper. The spring terminal's heavy-duty square design accepts wires as big as 8-gauge or two 12-gauge wires for multi-sub installations. The high-temp voice coil is rumored to be spun upon the looms of the gods of polyamide fiberglass, along with a reinforced former for high strength and power handling. Now, add colossal magnets, plus a cavernous bump backplate, an extended pole piece created in a single forging, the likes that haven't been seen since the creation of Poseidon's trident. And the result is a driver with superior control and effective heat dissipation that extreme performance demands. The all-new KICKER Comp-Q is designed from the ground up to deliver everything you demand from a premium subwoofer. High output, deep, powerful, accurate bass, remarkably small enclosure requirements, stunning good looks, and not to mention the ability to frighten small children when turned up to 11. So there you have it, the all-new KICKER Comp-Q subwoofer, another zenith of innovation and epic majesty from KICKER.
I built my first speaker to be louder. I was playing in a band and the drummer played so loud and the keyboard that I had wouldn't play very loud, and I went to my dad and said, I need a bigger speaker. It's a Fender Bandmaster, it costs $300. He dropped the newspaper. It said $300. Yeah, but he didn't say no. He said, is it something that we could build? And so that's how I got started building speakers. The thing that I love to see is a product that we made and get to stand back kind of anonymously and watch somebody take a look at it, listen to it, and go, wow. I think that's what really lights my fires, to make products that people enjoy and have fun with. As time went on, I heard people say, you know, KICKER's like a family. I actually didn't set out to do that. I thought it sounded kind of hokey. I thought they were insincere and just saying that. After a few years, I realized, yeah, maybe that's what we've got. And that's the key, is the good people on your team in the band that makes the band really great. Well, I think KICKER is primarily a lifestyle company. That's a little backwards of where I started. I thought we were a technology company and we would make great products, but as time went on, realized that it's about people and helping people to enjoy their life and what they do. And that's what I do, too. So share the love a little bit, I guess.
Check, check. I got Mike. There, have audio from you. Good evening, everyone. It's Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time, Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. Thanks for tuning in. We've got a very good show, at least we think so, on tap for tonight. We got some special guests who are going to join us, so we've got a pretty full-packed night. I think we're even going to be stretched to find a way to fit it all into 90 minutes. What I'd like to do first, you know, we've been running a contest. This is going into the beginning, actually this is week 3 of the contest, and we're giving away a quad box. And we've done this in conjunction with Dereck over at Williston Audio Labs. So if you don't mind, Jeremy, I can't do this without him on the screen with you. Would you please bring Dereck into the studio and join us here? I think that, hey, there he is.
What's going on?
What's going on, my man? How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great. I tell you, man, that pre-roll, that stuff that started off before this just gets everybody pumped up. I'm excited.
You know, there's a lot of great stuff in there. What's interesting is some of that stuff's new, some of it's been around for a while, but obviously being here on YouTube and Facebook, a lot of people have seen it for the first time, including you. And you and Robert both had some fantastically nice things to say about it, and man, it kind of humbles us that we've got stuff that you guys think is that good.
It's awesome. I'm just so excited about, you know, this show that you guys are doing. You're doing an excellent job with the production, but I'm also excited about the giveaway that's coming up, which you're going to talk about right now.
Absolutely. You know, the giveaway that's coming up, we want to talk about that, and that's why I wanted to get you on live here real quick, because obviously this is something we planned. It's been close to a year ago that we actually talked about doing this, and as you kind of said in the initial video, we had to keep pushing it back because we were wanting to make sure we had at least stock in our dealers' hands. And then, of course, this year has been a roller coaster ride for everyone on getting stock and production and getting it across. So it's been a real interesting ride, but we sent you a quad box. It was actually hand signed by Steve Irby himself. He, in his own words, he said it's going to take a semi-truck to get it to you, and I think literally it did take a semi-truck to get it to you. So that was pretty cool. But you did a full review on that box. You did some, you know, you're not, as you even say yourself, you're not an SPL guy, but you broke a 150 in a stock car with a KX 2400 amplifier in there, so that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's a big vehicle too, Kip. I mean, this is a full-size SUV, not a small SUV like the one that Dean and Fernando used when they did their testing. So that was even more impressive to me. But yeah, it's a great sounding box. Not just SPL, you know, it's a great sounding speaker box for bass. Not SPL is just, you know, just something that's added. It's not like it's key function, but it definitely does it. And as you've seen, some of the other guys who've done testing have gotten considerably more SPL than I have, and they know what they're doing. So it's just a great box all around. I mean, and for the fact that you guys are actually making this and selling it, you can go to your dealer and pick it up. I mean, it's just too cool. I'm so excited of the products that you guys are throwing out there. Just reinvigorating the whole industry, I think.
Well, you know, it's exciting to hear that. And as you've said, you know, in the exact words, we call it a demo box. We don't call it an SPL box. It's just a very well-built, tuned to around 31 hertz box that is designed to be musical, and of course it'll do it at a relatively high, as you verified testing, and a few other people have, like Robert and Brandon at D&B Sales. They joined us on that show, and you know, they obviously said the same thing. They were able to get, you know, 53s, 54s out of that box in vehicle. So, and they're SPL guys. I mean, they're into that game, and they want to play and tweak and tune. And you're just, and I say this with love from the bottom of my heart, you're just a big dummy who threw it in a car and hooked it up to see what it would do.
Hey, I like to be like the average person. Say, hey, anybody can do this. If I can do it, anybody can do it.
And it's nice to see that you say that you had an enjoyable experience with it. It wasn't just about trying to get a number. I mean, that was part of the fun, but that it was a very full-sounding experience for you in the vehicle while you did have it in there for demo.
Exactly. You know, it's difficult a lot of times to portray sound quality and things like that over a video. So we try to do things that kind of stand out, like SPL and, you know, showing the woofers flex and the vehicle flex, things like that. That's things that show up well visually, but actually listening to it with your own ears, you know, there's just no substitution for that.
You know, and obviously we debuted your video that you did on that, which was basically a full review on the quad box. We had fun with it. We knew we were going to give one away, but we had to have some fun with it, so you guys talked me into it. And actually, the game got a little hotter and a little hotter because there were things that upped the ante that were not planned in that original launch video. And so it's actually now basically a full package. You're going to get, if you go register, which by the way, to do that, we need you to go over and hit Williston Audio Labs, hit his YouTube page, and you will see the Kicker Quad Box video there. And in the description for that, and I'm sure Dereck's tagged it in there, pinned it so it's easy to find, is actually the link that will then send you to the Gleam link, as we call it. It's the contest link where you can have multiple chances to win. It's not just one entry. There's actually certain things you can do. You can share, you can like, you can do other things, and you can actually get multiple entries into that. But it's not just the Quad Box anymore. It's actually a Quad Box. We're giving away a KXA 2400.1 amplifier to drive that with, which is the same amplifier you use for testing, Dereck. So we know you're going to get good results out of that. We're including a PKD1, which is our 1-aught wiring kit, so that you can get it connected to your battery properly in your vehicle with the right gauge wire. And then Brandon and Robert from D&B Sales were on. They felt like they wanted to just keep upping the ante on the Kicker guy. I think to them it was fun because that wasn't planned. So what we've done is they actually said we're going to put in, and so this is D&B Sales out of Fort Wayne, Indiana. They're actually putting into the mix a pair of speakers, actually 2 pair, front and rear speakers, KS speakers for your car. So that's added, and I couldn't let that go, so then I turned around and I added a KX or a CX 360.4 amplifier into the mix. And so now basically you've got a complete system that you're going to register for. It's not just a Quad Box, but it's a full system. And if you are close enough or crazy enough to drive to Fort Wayne, Indiana, the guys, Robert and Brandon, they said it on the air and they meant it. They will actually install the whole thing for you at no charge at D&B Sales in Fort Wayne. So, hopefully someone close wins it so they could take them up on that challenge. But what might be even more fun is if someone further away wins it and maybe they document their journey to Fort Wayne to get it done, and we could have that as a video to show here on the channel. I mean, I think that would be pretty cool.
I agree. It would be really cool. And one other thing I wanted to say real quick, Kip, about the giveaway is when people go to the giveaway, they may notice there's like 1 million or more entries and might say, oh, I'm not going to have a chance. This is like the lottery. What you need to realize is the way Gleam works is the more things that you visit in the link, the more entries you get. So there's not 1 million people yet that have registered for this giveaway. So just realize that when you go there, you still have a chance. You still have a good chance if you do more of the options. So I just want to let people understand how the giveaway works, how Gleam works, just so you don't think, you don't have any chance of winning. You still have a chance.
If I've got it straight, and Bill, or Bill Frog as we like to call him, our social guy Bill, he's obviously in the thread here interjecting as Kicker. If you just go and do the bare minimum and enter the contest, it gives you 100 entries into the contest. So it's like 100 raffle tickets that you get just for doing the bare minimum. And if you do the other things, I forget what it climbs up to, but I think it's like 400 or 500 raffle tickets basically that you can get towards this prize. So yeah, good point there, and I'm glad you brought that up, Dereck. Don't let the big number of the entries fool you, because it is over 1 million now, but that's because everyone has done multiple things to get 100 or 200 or 300 chances to win this thing. So we definitely need you to hit Williston Audio Labs YouTube page. The video's there. Check it out. It's really cool. It's a chance to listen and watch Dereck instead of me, so that's a great thing anyway. But he does a full review of that Quad Box. We have fun with it, and then you can hit that link that'll bring you back to Kicker at the Gleam, and you can enter to win that enclosure. So, and it's not an enclosure anymore. Like I said, it's a complete full system. And I'm proud to say that, this is something we had planned to do with Williston Audio Labs. A lot of people look at Kicker as some big corporate giant, and Dereck's been here, and he knows that there's more to it than that. And we actually look at Dereck and a few other people who are out here in the social media world doing these YouTube and Facebook channels. You guys are really the rock stars, and I'm thankful and appreciate you deciding to join us and do this giveaway opportunity, because I think it's more powerful when we do it with someone like you.
Well, I'm happy to be here, and I do appreciate you guys letting me join in. And look at this. This is cool.
There you go. You're like me. You point the wrong way all the time. That's okay.
That's a really cool little ad that was made, and yeah, this was originally going to be done back in the summer, so it was like a movie theater type show. But yeah, that's a really cool ad. You guys are pretty impressive in your graphics. I might need to hire some of your guys on the side to help me do mine.
Hey, we're working here at daytime here at Kicker, but at night all of us have a second job at Subway so we can make ends meet. So. But that said, definitely I wanted to bring you, we've got some other guests that are backstage, and I'm going to bring them, not going to bring them in yet. Jeremy is behind there. He's actually running the StreamYard interface, so he'll be able to do that as we ask for him. But I wanted to get you in and remind everyone, hey, check out the video, go hit the link, enter the contest. The more things you do, the more chances you have to win, which is a great thing. And then we are going to get together here. The contest entry is going to run till December 14th, midnight Central Time. So you have until December 14th to enter, and then after we get done with all the entries at midnight, that'll give us time to do everything and pull the winners. And then we are going to do a live show, another Kicker Unmasked Live Weekly. It'll be that Tuesday, December 15th. And Dereck and I have affectionately agreed that it's going to be Ugly Sweater Show. So I've got my best picked out, and I know Dereck does as well. We're going to come on and embarrass ourselves with our best ugly sweaters, and then we're going to announce the winners to the Quad Box giveaway with Dereck at Williston Audio Lab. So somebody's going to have a fantastic Christmas present. You know, maybe they'll get it installed before Christmas. Maybe they'll end up getting it installed at D&B sales. It'll be really interesting to see what happens after that. But it is fun. It's something that we're doing in conjunction with Williston Audio Labs because he is one of the rock stars out there who's doing all this stuff for you guys. So give him a big round of applause virtually because, you know, he's the one that kind of pushed us to do this. And I guarantee you we're going to do other cool things like this in the future. I think Dereck's on board for it.
Absolutely on board. And the rock star is way overshooting, but I do appreciate the comment. But hey, I like to come across as somebody just like you guys out here who are watching this video, who are commenting. You know, we're enthusiasts. And the guys that work at KICKER are the same way. I keep pointing the wrong way. These guys are enthusiasts too. So we're all like one big enthusiast family, and the fact that they're able to give away some things and make somebody have a great Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever holiday you celebrate, it's really, really cool. The fact that, you know, this is going to be something really exciting for somebody. Hopefully they have a big enough vehicle. If not, they're gonna have to go lease one because you gotta keep this box.
Yeah, because you can't ship it to you. When you get it, it's going to come on a semi-truck, so be prepared. It's that kind of delivery.
Yeah, and the guys are nice enough to roll it in with a pallet jack, but you'll have to have somewhere to put it. So be prepared. It's going to come on a pallet.
So, you know, we take a little bit of time, at least we have been this will be the third show we've done that. And we want to just remind everyone about the giveaway. Go watch the video, get entered. We want you to have a chance to win, but unless you go watch the video and follow the link, you don't have a chance. So it's just like the lottery. You're not going to win unless you try. So go enter. Tell them, Dereck, go enter.
Go enter. Watch the video. Enter. Just remember, the more things that you do on the list at Gleam, the more chances you have to win. And somebody's got to win. And there's more than just the quad box and the grand prize. They're giving away some secondary things as well. So you'll have an option to win something, maybe a stocking stuffer if you don't win the grand prize. So make sure you go check it out.
You know, you brought up giveaways and things that we do. We just got a fresh batch of brand new KICKER Unmasked Live t-shirts. Now, these aren't the limited edition black and white that we did for the original show, but this is a new shirt that we've put together for KICKER Unmasked Live. So it's on like a gray heather. It's got the red live logo on there, KICKER Unmasked. We just got a shipment of these in, and these are not available for purchase. You can't buy one. The only way you can get one of these shirts is to stay tuned to KICKER Unmasked, because we're going to always have creative ways to give some of these away. So what I'd like to say right now is, would you like to give away one to someone out there? You think they'd like to get a chance?
Do it.
All right, so
here's one away.
Okay, so here's the deal. We use StreamYard, obviously, to bring all the Facebook and the YouTube feeds in here together so that we can make this all work as one solid unit. So when we say the first winner, we mean the first person that has the correct answer that shows up in our StreamYard feed. We can't be responsible for Facebook or YouTube or the timing of those. All these come together, and then they are put in as one stream here on StreamYard. And Bill is watching this. So the first person to post the correct answer to this question will win one of these brand new, hot off the press, KICKER Unmasked Live t-shirts. So for the question, I could pick one, I really could, but I would rather my friend Dereck just randomly come up with a question that he thinks would be good to ask out into the audience, and the first person to reply back with the correct answer, Bill will grab you. He will then have you PM him with your information, which will be size and shipping information, and you're going to win one of these KICKER Unmasked Live t-shirts. So what do you think, Dereck? What's the question?
This one's going to be too easy for anybody who listens, but we're going to shoot it anyway. All right? So KICKER got the bad rap a few years ago about saying their speakers don't play below 40 hertz. What is the tuning frequency of the quad box? Go!
I know. I'm watching the feed here. Let's see what's got. Not really, blah, 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 blah. 1973. Oh, okay, there it is. Bill will have to confirm this, but to my end, it looks like it's Mothra.B17, and he came in with 31 hertz. Did you see that as well, Dereck?
I did. I second that. Good job.
Okay, so that's the winner that I saw. So Mothra B17, reach out to, his name's Bill. We call him Bill Frog, but he's actually in the feed here as kicker. If you will send him your shirt size and your mailing address, and we cannot use a P.O. box, and what you can do is don't put it in the public feed here. PM Bill, and when you PM him, it's going to be social@kicker.com, and I'm sure Bill will throw that into the feed, but that's how we want to get the information from you. So please get that to Bill. You are an official winner of one of the new t-shirts, and maybe we'll give away another one or two later on the show if Dereck feels so inclined.
I feel inclined. I'm in a giving mood, giving away stuff that they're letting me give away. I'm all about that.
So we've covered the quad box. I want to let everybody know about that. We've got the new shirts, and we are going to be giving these away during shows, not just tonight, but ongoing. I mean, we've stocked these shirts up, and it's going to be one of many things that we'll use for prizes and giveaways for people who tune in on the Tuesday night show. But what I'd like to do right now, if Jeremy would do me a favor, is you have a wingman, a partner in crime. You guys are truly stars in the universe of doing the 12-volt talk show. He does a show called Reverse Polarity, where he has people join in. I know lately he's been doing a lot of stuff with Dean from 5 Star. But if you could bring in Robert Hifi Vega, I'd like to have him join us right here. Hey, Robert.
Yo. What's going on, fellas?
Welcome to the show tonight. How you doing, Robert?
I'm doing great. Just been waiting, seeing what's going on.
Robert, the reason I wanted to have Robert specifically join our show tonight is we're going to really touch on 3 products tonight, talk a little bit more about them, and we've got some, and boy, when we get to it, I sure hope everything works for us well, but we've actually got some live demos here that we're going to do live. We're going to show you how some of this key technology works live, so in advance, you've got to give us some grace for any mistakes that may happen, because we're doing this live, but it gives you a chance to see and talk about it. And Robert has actually experimented with and used one of our KEY 200.4 amplifiers in his own personal vehicle. And I know initially he had, I want to use the word wonderful, but I think wonderful isn't even enough, that he was overflowing with comments about how well he liked what the 200.4 did, how it was so much processing power, how it replaced things that were so much bigger in his car and did it in a much smaller package in the processing. So I wanted Robert to join us tonight because one of the products we are going to talk about is the KEY 200.4. So if you can, Robert, just give us a little bit of insight into what you did with that and what you thought about it.
So the KICKER key, it replaced, what was it, 4 amps in my car and about 6 foot of trunk space. And it actually tuned the system right out of the box a little bit better than what I tuned it with my DSP. So I'm a little ashamed of that, but it is a fantastic product. It really shocked me. And when I first seen it, I didn't realize what it was until I seen Dean put it to use in his channel. And I seen that he was so impressed. I was like, I have to get one of these. I have to reach out to Kip and see what this is all about.
And of course, we don't pull any puns here or try to hide anything. We did provide you one for testing, sent one out your direction so you could get a look at it. And the thing for us is we don't have any stipulations on stuff we send out for reviews. And I know that Dereck and Robert can both verify that. If a reviewer wants to look at one of our products and it fits into our agenda, we will provide that product at no cost. We do not require any stipulations. We don't ask to review the video. We want an honest presentation of what they think about our products. So outside of providing the product at no charge, there's no other costs that are involved. I mean, it's you guys giving your honest opinion about the product once it's in your hands.
Yeah, that's 100% for sure.
Yeah, the way I feel about that is that says a lot right there. That tells me that you believe in your products, because a lot of times there are stipulations that say, hey, if you're going to get this, then we want, you to say something like this in a script in your video. No, Rob and I don't do that kind of thing. So, we are independent reviewers and we'll tell you what we think. Now, the other thing I would say about the Key, even though I haven't used one yet, based on what Rob has told me, based on what things I've seen with Dean, car audio can be difficult, right? Car audio is not like home audio where you just plug in your receiver and you plug in your speaker wires and turn it on and you're good to go. Car audio is much more complicated, so having a device like this that makes things easier, that's what we need, right?
It is, and obviously Robert has had fantastic results with what he played and worked with, and had good results with that. And there's been a lot of questions that have come up about Key. People ask, well, is there something else coming? Is there this? Is there that? And I don't want to let any cats out of the bag per se, but what I've told people a lot of times is if you look at what we started with, which was the Key 200.4, and then the next product we brought to market is actually a Key 500.1, which does the same thing. It does auto correction. One of the biggest problems in vehicles with stock or OEM radios is a lot of them have a built-in filter or a variable filter that as you turn up the music, it starts taking bass away. And what they're looking to do is just protect the smaller drivers in the vehicle. They want them to last for 3 years, 36,000 miles. So the Key 501, what the Key 200.4 does for imaging and staging and equalization so you get a good tonal balance in a car, the 500.1 does the same thing, but it accounts for that bass roll-off that happens in a vehicle, recorrects that. So now the amplifier is feeding your subwoofer a full range signal with everything down to 20 hertz. Yes, well below 40 hertz and then some, but you basically get a full range signal out of that 500.1. You don't get all that rolled off bass. And then if you look at we progressed from there, we came out with the key lock, which I don't want to get too far into it because that's the piece we're going to do a lot of hands-on demo with tonight. The key lock takes it a whole lot further than people realize. The key lock, in many cases, you should actually probably run a key lock before you even run a Key 200.4, depending on the car you're interfacing with, because the key lock is going to correct all the anomalies out of factory radios, whether it's all pass filters, whether it's low pass filters, whether it's roll off a bass, all sorts of things that are going on. It will correct all that, and then you can come in and do an acoustic tune, which is what the 200.4 does with the microphone. So we're going to get deeper into that and talk about that, but I really wanted you guys to come along for the ride because you have had, at least Robert has, firsthand experience on the Key 200.4, and he knows what it can do. So the last person I want to bring into the feed to join us on this merry ride is the man, the myth, the legend. His name is John Myers, and John is actually, besides an employee here at KICKER, he works on our global tech force. They call it the KICKER Tech Force. John literally travels the world training our dealers and our reps about all the new products that we have, how to get the most out of them, the most application. And if there's anyone here at KICKER I think that could give me a run for my money when it comes to product knowledge and application, it's definitely John. And so if you don't mind, will you bring John into the studio? Jeremy, I'd like for him to join us. And Mr. John Myers, how are you this evening?
I'm doing good. Well, I used to be the global trainer, but that hasn't really been the case so much lately.
Hey, when you get a chance, John, your mic is hot again. If you get a chance, can you pull that down?
I sure can. It'll give me just a minute.
Yeah, it's just a shade hot. You're overdriving just a little bit. But, you know, obviously this year has been a little interesting because nobody's been traveling a lot this year. But John, under normal circumstances, does travel the world on that. And one of the demos we've got set up here tonight, which is on the key lock, John actually put it all together. So, unfortunately, John has been traveling, and we do have restrictions here at KICKER where if you've been outside the building and traveling for work, you've got to basically quarantine for 14 days before you come back. So John is actually quarantined in the back of the building. We did bring him on site, but he's far enough away that I couldn't even hit him with a good softball if I tried. But he's joining us over this live interface, and we wanted him to join us because when we get to the key lock and talk about this setup he's got, I know John's going to have a lot of great input as far as what's going on here. But what I want to start off with first, John, is I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into the Key 200.4. And if you could tell us, you know, we know it's a 50 watt by 4 amplifier, but beyond that, tell us a little bit more about how the Key does its magic work.
Well, what's really cool about this key amplifier is you really don't have to know anything about tuning. You don't need, RTAs. You don't need oscilloscopes. It's going to use the microphone, and it's going to custom tune your audio system to the acoustics of the vehicle. One of the things that's really interesting, you start talking about acoustics. Now, there is no right, there is no wrong. I mean, you like what you like, and that doesn't make any difference if anyone else likes it or not. But there is kind of a baseline that's considered, more technically correct. It may not be, personally correct, but technically correct. So what the key will actually do with that microphone, when it starts adjusting the audio, we start talking about equalization adjustments. Well, we know the factories are putting DSP or digital signal processing in their OEM radios, even at the base level. Well, they will then tune with the DSP that OEM radio to work with their lesser quality, more inexpensive speakers to make them sound a little bit better. So when you go in and replace that with, say, a KSC or a QS speaker, it may actually sound worse than the stock speaker did because you've got that factory DSP equalization that's built into that radio. So you have to compensate for that. Something else that's interesting about equalization is the speakers themselves have coloration. They do change the sound. And then you've got the transfer function of the vehicle. So all three of those things combine to give you a total, net sound, so to speak. So what's cool about the KEY amplifier with the microphone, it will actually compensate for all three types of acoustic variations to flatten out that frequency response. It's actually really cool the way it works. Not only does it do that, it will then go back in and do time alignment, and it'll adjust output levels to make sure no one channel is louder than the other one. We all know that most of the amplifiers just have a gain control for each pair of outputs. Well, you can't adjust the left-right gain, and if you're closer to one speaker, it's going to be louder. So the KEY will actually independently adjust the gain levels of all four channels to make sure no one speaker plays louder than the other one at the position where the microphone is placed. Then you take it even a step farther with the time alignment. The speakers that are closer to you, the sound's going to arrive sooner. So it's going to actually delay the sound from the speakers closest to you so that the sound reaches you at exactly the same time. Now that's all in the 4-channel mode. And one other thing in the 4-channel mode, it actually attenuates the high frequencies in the rear. So if you set the KEY up and tune it, you notice some of the high frequencies have been attenuated in the rear of the vehicle. That's what it's designed to do, because you want your stage in front of you, not in front of you and behind you. So it's actually calibrated to do that as well. It's really amazing. When this technology was introduced, it really kind of set the whole industry on edge. It was so much fun.
John, you say that, and what's kind of interesting about it is that, I'm proud to say this. John and I were actually hired within days of each other. We've been here at KICKER for basically the same amount of time.
Actually, it was the same date.
It was the same day, and we won't get into it tonight because we don't have the time. But on another show, we'll let John tell his story about how I almost cost him his job, because that's how he likes to tell the story.
That's my version anyway.
But John and I come from a pretty unique background in that we're both not just car audio enthusiasts. John and I are enthusiasts about audio, video, cars, electronics. John and I are just enthusiasts in general. If it runs on power or has an on-off switch or a button, I think John and I both get pretty excited about it.
Or if we can tweak and tune it somehow.
Absolutely. But John and I, obviously on the home side of the equation, products that do what the KEY does have been out for quite a while. The home environment's a little different. It's a more of a fixed environment. Things are probably a little bit different to do there. But the KEY is really the first product of its kind that's hit the market where it has basically a computer inside. I like to call it an artificial intelligence. It is a program. It's going for, I know you said that, there's no perfect curve, but obviously we have a target idea of how we think a car should sound and what the frequency response should be. And that AI works to get the system as close to that target curve as it possibly can, while also maintaining good signal noise ratio, not too much boost, not too much cut, and all those things. And even though it's something that John and I have been exposed to on the home side for years, this is really the first product that I know of, John, in the car side that does it with the press of a button and does that same type of work.
Yeah, it really is exciting. In fact, really behind the scenes on this product, it was actually not a product that we actually intended on making. One of our engineers was kind of, fooling around with DSP on the side and kind of a little pet project. And he was kind of showing me what he was doing. And after I listened to it, I'm like, oh my God, we got to get on this thing now. This is incredible. Nothing else in the industry can touch it, and nothing has since.
That's a true story. So to get into a little more of the details on this, John, we know it's 50 by 4, and you've kind of touched on that. Something I want to drive home with the KEY is, and as John kind of said in more ways than one, is this product works by fixing things acoustically, meaning it actually has a microphone that's placed in the car, and it listens as if your ears are in that place, and it does acoustical fixes to the car. Whereas something like the KEY 500.1 or even the KEY Lock, when we get into those do not work acoustically. They work electrically and actually alter the signal just at the preamp level. So I want to draw the distinction there that the KEY 200.4 is a very unique device in that it is actually tuning the car acoustically by listening to feedback in the microphone. And is that not correct, John? Correct me if I've got that upset there.
That is completely correct.
So that's what really makes the product unique. Now, John, I know it's 10 EQ bands per channel. Is that correct on the KEY?
40 EQ bands altogether. It's always going to start to cut the EQ first. As we know, with proper tuning, every time you boost any frequency, you've got the possibility of introducing distortion. So we should make the distinction that after you tune the key, you can actually use the microphone setup button to toggle between the DSP on and off. If you notice, it's a little bit quieter when the DSP is on. That's because it automatically cuts the EQ when it can to begin with. So it may actually be a little bit quieter, but I think when you listen to it, the overall sound stage and height of the image are going to blow you away at how well it really works. So don't confuse volume with quality. And I know that's kind of the big thing. If you guys have ever, you get really bored, get on the internet and type in the loudness wars. And it talks about how, engineers thought louder is better all the time. But we all know that's not necessarily true.
Right. So another point I'd like to bring home with you, John, is you talk about your experience in seeing this actually being developed down R&D. Is this product is a KICKER in-house product. I mean, it was born here, developed here, the software, the hardware, everything about what the Key does is a true birth at Stillwater Designs here in Stillwater, Oklahoma product, is it not?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In fact, we have 3 patents on that single product. I mean, the algorithm is the first thing that's patented. We also have a patent on the power supply technology because it's actually a 2-stage power supply and the way it does all the processing. So it's really a cool little product. In fact, the power supply, it's so efficient. This little guy does not get hot. I mean, I buried it under foam in seats and it still doesn't shut off at full power. It works pretty much the same as a BTL amplifier up to about 25 watts, which is almost 100% efficiency. And not till after that does the Class D section kick in to give you that 50 watts at 4 ohms. Now, just real quickly, someone did comment that they were a little disappointed since they have 2 ohm speakers in their vehicle. They can't use it in their vehicle. Go ahead and give this thing a shot. Now, in the owner's manuals, and to be absolutely on record, at 2 ohms with a 40 hertz sine wave, running into a resistive load, it would occasionally go into protection. But with an acoustic load like a speaker and using a dynamic source means changing, such as music, it should not be a problem. So even though we do not specify it as 2 ohm stable, I've yet to have anyone call me up and say, hey, I'm running on my 2 ohm, Bose speakers and it shuts off. That just has not happened yet. But to be, perfectly clear, for the record, to be absolutely, upfront and transparent, it's not rated at 2 ohms, but it will play it when a dynamic source and an acoustic load.
Right. And then, Robert, I've got this little demo here I'm going to show. And of course, you having one that you said replaced a 6 foot of real estate basically in the back of your vehicle. This is my cell phone. This is a Galaxy S9 Plus cell phone. For anybody out there in the world, you know how big these are. And if you could, Timmy, if you give me a close up here, Ernie, could you give me a little shot here on the close up camera? I actually want to show the Key 200.4 and I want to show it here next to an actual cell phone. So here's the Key 200.4 and here is my Galaxy S9 cell phone. So literally, it is almost the exact same size as my Galaxy S9 phone as far as a size footprint. And I'll put my phone down and get it out of the way so you got a reference for that. But that's looking at that. And then you can get a look from the side. It's very thin. John, how high is this? Inch in?
It's like 1.8 inches.
Okay, I was going to say 175, so you're probably right on that 1.8.
Yeah, probably pretty darn close.
And then, John, here on the end, there are dip switches on here. Now, the programming...
What'd you call me? Calling me a dip.
What Not as far as you know, John. Not as far as you know. But the dip switch is on the end here, John. I don't mean the dip switch that's in the bottom right corner of the screen. But these dip switches do allow you to do some programming on the Key. And if you could you touch on those, what those switches do cover on the Key product?
Yeah, of course, now you're going to test my memories, what each switch in order means. I know the first one is going to be your DC offset or 12-volt signal. So when you're running speaker level input into this amplifier, there is something called DC offset on every speaker lead. That's generally half the battery voltage. So if you're running a 12-volt system, it's going to show about 6 volts on every speaker lead. It will use that to turn on automatically. There is no need to run a switched 12-volt lead to the amplifier when it's in the DC offset mode, especially with these new computer-controlled vehicles. It can be a real challenge to find switched 12 volts anywhere. So merely running speaker level right into it and setting that to DC, it'll turn on and off with your source unit. It's not going to work as a signal sense, and we all know how much of a pain in the butt signal sense is, where you've got to have a certain level of AC voltage to get the amplifier to turn on. This is a DC voltage that's consistent no matter where the volume control is. As long as the radio's powered up, it's going to be on. So
and obviously that's a feature that we find necessary to tie into the factory, the OE systems, because in a lot of those cases you cannot get a switch 12-volt output for a turn on in those cases.
Exactly. And even with the aftermarket head units, they're all going to have that DC offset built into their speaker leads. In fact, a lot of the factory and OEM amplifiers have DC offset as well. Until you get to the really high-powered systems that have a true power supply, then they do not have the DC offset. But we always suggest go for that DC offset first. It's basically infallible as long as you have DC signal coming into it.
Sure. So then moving along from that, what other controls do we have on the end panel?
You've also got controls for the fader on or off. You can get all 4 channels of output with just 2 channels of input. You have another switch which is going to allow for bi-amp mode. It allows you to run a set of components, a tweeter and a mid-range, without using the passive crossovers, which I'll be quite honest with you is my favorite way to run that amplifier, in bi-amp mode, to a set of components up front. That's where it really shines. And when you select bi-amp mode, it's automatically going to trigger the crossover to be high pass, low pass at 3.2K at 24 dB per octave on each slope. So that's going to give you a great crossover between a tweeter and a mid-range. Now, when it does its setup process, this little guy is so smart with that microphone, it's going to detect if you have a larger speaker than a tweeter. Saying like my Dodge Journey, I've got a 3.5 in the dash and a 6x9 in the door. With that little amplifier, using the key in bi-amp mode, it detects the fact that there's a 3.5, not just a tweeter, so it automatically changes the crossover point to 320 hertz high pass, 640 hertz low pass in the doors. Now what that does is that brings all the vocals and everything up on top of the dash and blocks them from the doors. So you pretty much, when you turn this thing on, the doors disappear. They're completely out of the acoustic equation. You can't even tell they're on. So a couple other cool things that you've got the ability to turn on and off the kick EQ, which is kind of a little bit of bass and treble boost like you kind of alluded to earlier. We got kind of our own little sound that we're kind of making this amplifier produce. So you have the ability to turn that on and off, and you can turn the time delay on and off. Now you may ask, if we're bragging so much about how cool the time delay is and how important that is to proper soundstage, why would you want to shut it off? Well, the reason we made it user defeatable is some OEM head units have time delay built in. This does all its processing after the signal comes out of that head unit. Therefore, if you incorporate the time delay in the key on top of the time delay that's built into the factory radio, it's not going to give you that proper imaging. So we can't go back and shut off that factory time delay, but we can give you the ability to defeat our added time delay, which should bring that image back in scope. And if you're going to use this with smaller door speakers or in conjunction with a subwoofer, you do have the ability to engage a high pass crossover on amp 2 at 60, 80, or 120 hertz at 24 dB per octave. So it's got great fourth order crossovers built into it, high pass and low pass. It's a killer little piece for the money.
It is a killer piece for the money, and obviously it's unique in the marketplace. It's very unique in the 12-volt arena. And what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring Robert on board. And Robert, if you could just give us a little bit of rundown. That's a lot of technical information on the key itself and what it does. What was your real-world experience as far as audibly going through the setup routine? What did you think?
So a few things that you didn't mention were the DC offset not only senses the signal for factory integration, but it gives you a remote out. If you're running an amplifier that does not have that, it's also a very good line output converter to get signal to another amplifier if your amplifier doesn't have the DC offset and everything set up. But as far as setting up, I thought it was very easy. You don't set crossovers, you don't set the EQ, you literally plug your speakers in, you put the mic up, go through the process. If everything goes good, you get a happy noise. If something messes up, you get a sad noise. And that's it. You jump in, click the button, and you're ready to roll.
The cool things you talk about the sad noise is if it doesn't give you the happy tones, dun, da, 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 it's going to tell you after it gives you the descending, the da, 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 it'll beep in a sequence to tell you exactly what is wrong. So even if you're not, familiar with how to set up or program or tune anything, if you can count the number of beeps and cross-reference with the manual, it will tell you exactly what's wrong. It will tell you if a speaker's not connected. It will tell you if it doesn't have pink noise. It'll tell you if you have the bi-amp switch in the wrong position. It really is, almost impossible to completely screw it up unless you just don't give it a chance.
Yeah, for sure. It is it's dead simple. And it actually, I can say this because I don't work for Kicker, but I replaced a Robert Fosgate T400/4 amp with this Kicker amp, and let me tell you, it is easily as powerful. As a matter of fact, I know people say this all the time, but I literally still have the gain at 0, and it absolutely rocks the speakers that it's running. And I'm actually using it in a way that's not intended, because I have 6.5s in the door, I have 2-inch mids with a passive and a tweet up in the dash, and it accounted for all that, and it worked perfectly.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Now, I suppose I should kind of elaborate on the tuning setup, because here we are talking about how this is completely auto setup and there isn't really much user, input for the setup. I have learned several little tricks that you can do to kind of tailor this. It does make a difference where you place the microphone in the vehicle. And we always tell you, put it in the driver's seat with it facing straight up, especially in 4-channel mode. But what we don't tell you is that you can move that microphone left or right, up or down, or forwards or backwards, and that will actually change the whole tuning of the vehicle, because it'll basically change the time alignment where that image is perceived. And another little trick I've learned, if it's not hot enough for you, I'm old, I'm losing my high frequency hearing, so if you want it to have a little bit more high frequency output, throw a towel over the microphone, because that's going to limit the high frequencies that are getting to the microphone, so it's going to try to boost those a little bit more. So just a couple little tricks with tuning. And then what I usually tell people, and here again, this is not the manual, I just found this out from installing quite a few of these little amplifiers. If you're in bi-amp mode and you're merely tuning the front stage, I face the microphone forward, because the front speakers are what you're really trying to tune, and that's the most important. You don't care what's going on behind you. So that's another little trick, is if you're in bi-amp mode especially, face the microphone straight forward, and sometimes that'll give you a little bit better tune, or maybe it'll give you a tune that's more to your personal taste.
Yeah,
hey, John,
and I actually ended up doing that myself. I started with it face up, and I wanted to do it face forward just to see what it sounded like, and it does. It sounds a little bit.
It makes a difference.
Yeah.
Since you brought it up, John, I actually have the microphone over here. I'm going to have Tim get a close-up with it with the camera we've got going on here. But we've got a microphone here, and you can see this is the pellet right here. It's just a little mic. It's not very big. I'd say it's probably maybe the size of a $50 as far as size. And this is the microphone itself right here. And you literally it comes with a rubber strap that'll hold this, and you put it on the headrest of your car. Like John said, you can move it around. And then it plugs into the amplifier right here with just a 3.5 millimeter cable, plugs right into the amplifier. Now, once you do the setup routine, you can unplug this cable. This does not have to stay plugged into the amplifier for use. This is just for setup. But if you do have this plugged in, once the entire routine is done, right here on the cable is the actual pellet. And maybe Tim can get a close-up of this right here that actually sits on the cable. This is the pellet. And this is where you can actually initiate the programming routine. And when it's completed, you can actually use this button to turn on and off what is happening as far as the processing that the key is applied to your system. Is that all not correct, John?
Yeah, that is absolutely correct. And what you'll find out is you'll get one lower tone beep. That means the processor's off. And you'll get 2 beeps with a little bit higher pitch tone. That's going to tell you the processor's on. And that's why I stressed earlier, if you're comparing it by using that button, and when the processor's on, if it gets a little bit quieter, that's because it's doing its job correctly by cutting the EQ before it boosts anything. So don't assume that because it's not playing as loud that it's not as good. If you really listen to it, you're going to hear how amazing, it really does tune that system.
Now, Robert, obviously you had to go through the auto setup routine on this and download the test tones from kicker.com to do this in your own vehicle. How was the process for you? Because it was obviously a first time for you to use this product. How did you feel it went?
Oh, it was simple. Just power and then hook it up to your speakers. I went ahead and downloaded the files on a little USB drive. My wife's factory unit has USB, so plugged it straight in, went to the tones, and poof. Steve Irby jumped in, done a little tuning in my system, and it was ready to go. And, speaking of the sound signature a little bit, if you guys have listened to Kicker headphones or other Kicker products like the Bullfrog, there is a Kicker sound that goes within each product, and it's that similar sound. Now, for a pure SQ guy, I would say, and I said this in my video, that maybe it's a little bass heavy, but for my taste, it's perfect. It's right what I want. You know, it's probably like 3 dB on the bass, flat, and then rolls off a little bit on the tweet, which is perfect for me.
And obviously, if the bass is a little hot and you're using just the key for everything, just grab the bass control in your factory radio or your aftermarket radio, whichever one you have, and you can obviously flat turn that bass down if you want to. And as you alluded to, and of course John said, we do have a sound that we feel a car sounds good at. We call it the Kicker curve, the Kicker EQ, and it does tend to be a little warmer in the bottom end. It does roll off the very high end a little bit, so it's not piercing or shrill, but it's still got that crystalline sound that you're looking for. So a cymbal sounds like a cymbal. You don't have the sibilance problems with people pronouncing S's or things like that where they sound slurred. So it is a target curve that we have designed, and it's from years and years and years of competition in the field. I do want to give credit where credit's due. You know, we have a gentleman here by the name of Joe Gross, and he is one of the, I mean, he goes way back. Like when Usaki was first starting and Iasca was first starting, Joe was an avid competitor in that day, and he's been with Kicker for many, many years. And so he comes from that competition background, and Joe helped develop the curve that you hear happening in that key product. He and Steve Irby both worked together to get that to where they want it. So it is a target curve we've designed. As John said, everyone may have their own idea of how something should or shouldn't sound, but there is an area where if a system is tuned properly and it's EQ'd properly and it's crossed over properly, that you get a good full natural sound, and we feel, other than maybe being a little bit bass heavy, it's where we're at.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a very pleasant sound, and it's something that most everybody can agree with, I would say. Besides, if you're competing SQ, then yeah, it's going to be a little bit different. But, you know, I talked about this with Dean, and in my opinion, I told him I thought it gets you about 80% of the way of what you would get with a professional DSP and a full person tuning it, and for $250, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a steal.
Yeah, what's crazy about it, you bring that up, Robert, but a lot of times people will invest the money in buying a high-end DSP or whatever they may find to put into their car, but then they balk and draw back, and they don't want to pay a professional for his time to actually get in and tune the car with his ear, with his experience, with his knowledge, with his tools, because you do have to have all of those things together in order to properly tune a DSP. And if you're going to invest hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in a DSP setup in your automobile, but you're unwilling to pay a professional to actually do the tuning on it, or you invest your time in learning how and make lots and lots of mistakes, because that's how we all learn, till you get to the point that you can tune it, that's the magic of a DSP. The DSP can be as powerful as you want, but it does nothing until someone who's experienced actually adjusts it. And that's what the key gives you, is you're having some experience that's basically wrapped up, it's in software, it's in the can, and it's in the box, and at the push of a button, and in about 5 minutes, your car is tuned by someone. Even though we're not physically there doing it, it's a computer doing what we say it should be tuned to. And for most people, you're going to get better results out of the key with its automatic setup routine than those expensive DSPs with hours of tuning. I'm not saying you can't get better, I'm just saying you got to know what you're doing to get there, because this gets you pretty darn close.
And I'm going to throw you a softball for a commercial that, you know, you play the commercials in the break. What you do is you get the key in, then you have a little puff of magic, and Steve Irby's up there tweaking on the EQ and doing all that stuff. That's a free one. You could take that.
I like that idea. I second the emotion.
That sounds like a plan. We need to write that one down. That sounds like a good idea. So what I'm going to do now, obviously you've had a great experience with the Key 200.4, and we covered a pretty deep experience on that. John went over a lot of the features on that. I want to shift gears, and I want to move to another product that's in the line, and that would be the Key 500. Yeah, go ahead.
I forgot one thing, and this is actually pretty important, and I apologize to everyone for forgetting to mention this. The third patent we have on that amplifier is the fact that it's 6-volt start-stop compatible. So that's very important with today's start-stop vehicles. This was the first certified aftermarket car audio product that would operate down to 6 volts without shutting off.
I forgot about that, John. Thank you for bringing that up. That is a big deal. And a lot of vehicles today, what John means by start-stop is, if any of you out there have a gas or diesel powered vehicle today that when you come up to a stop sign or a stoplight and take your foot off the accelerator and put it on the brake, is that the car actually turns off. And then when you take your foot off the brake and hit the accelerator pedal, it starts back up real quick and you keep going. That start-stop. And the reason John's bringing that up and it's such a big deal is most amplifiers are not designed to handle the voltage drop that happens when you start your vehicle. And it can sag down very low and then it comes right back up once the alternator is running. The KEY amplifier is designed to stay on and operational during start-stop scenarios that happen in those type of vehicles. So John, thank you for bringing that up. That is a great feature on that amplifier.
Yeah, and actually something else, here again, this thing's so packed with features, some of them kind of escape us because we don't think about it, is the compression. I mean, this has got a limiter built into it that's going to limit the output distortion to about 1%. So it's going to help protect your speakers, and that's especially important when the start-stop is engaged, because as that voltage drops, if you're really wailing on it, it can clip and cause damage to the speakers, but that compression circuit's going to kick in to prevent that from happening, and you'll never even know it happens. It does it so flawlessly.
That's true. That's a feature that's built into that. So do you feel good that we've covered just about everything on the KEY, John?
I think so. I'll think of something later. You know how I am.
I would suggest that everyone go to the KICKER 200.4 KEY page and look at all the features it has, because I know that there's something that hasn't been mentioned here, and you're going to be surprised that this thing's only $249.
Oh, and now that we mentioned that, I just thought of another one. Ding, ding, ding. It does have load resistors built in. So if you've got a newer smart, OEM radio that requires a 60 ohm load to operate, this amplifier has that built in, and it's the amp detect switch, which is in the bottom right corner. So if you've got, let's just use the Chrysler, for example, because they're the most popular that have this feature. If they need a load to operate properly, so if you connect the amp, you got it connected correctly, and the amplifier's output turns off as you crank up the volume, or you get no output whatsoever, go ahead and go back in to the amplifier, the end panel, and push the amp detect button, and that will give you a 60 ohm load on each of the channels. Do not use the switch when you're using the RCA input. It's only with the factory smart radio. So that's another great feature that's built into this amplifier. I mean, for $250, you can't even write the manual for that amount, I don't think.
As John was explaining that, I was kind of watching the feed here, and John Rivers brought up a question. He says, does the KEY drain the battery in that instance? And I'm sure he's referring to a start-stop circumstance. And the best answer for that, John, is if you've got a healthy alternator and you've got a healthy battery and your battery is charged properly and you're just driving your car as normal, you'd have to sit at a stoplight or a stop sign for probably an hour-ish or more with that amplifier at full tilt boogie before you'd have any problem starting the vehicle back up and driving off, because it's a very efficient amplifier. It's 50 by 4. It takes very good care of that. But once the voltage gets too low, the amplifier would shut off. But in a normal situation driving, you would never, ever, ever approach that situation. You want to chime in on that, John?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, this thing is fused at 15 amps, and that's at full power, minimum impedance sine wave. I'll be honest with you, just running a current meter on this thing, when you're operating, even at full power at the dynamic load, you're probably looking at it, 5 to 7 amp draw, at max. So, I'm going to say, Kip, you're probably wrong on one instance. It will probably play for 6, 7, 8 hours before it had any effect on battery voltage whatsoever.
I'm okay being wrong in that direction, John. I don't want to be wrong the other way.
Well, if you're wrong the other way, I wouldn't have said anything.
I can confirm it because I did test mine at full volume and I was only pulling 7 amps. So.
Yeah, it's so efficient. And that's why it operates so cool.
Okay, so what I'm going to do here at this point in the show, I want to give away another T-shirt. Who wants to win a T-shirt? I want to see some yeses in the column over there. But I think it's time to give away another T-shirt. Yeah, go ahead, Dereck.
I was going to say, Kip, it's time to give away something, so I'm glad you brought that up. Hey. And I've got another question, unless Rob or we want to have somebody else ask one.
If you got a good one, hold on. So here's the rules again, guys. Obviously, this is all pulled together in StreamYard. The first answer that pops up in our StreamYard feed that is correct, that's going to be the winner. And then Bill will reach out to you and have you PM him at social@kicker.com with your information so you can get the shirt. So with that said, Dereck, what's the question?
All right. So you guys have been listening to all this useful information that's been filling your brains full of this technical specifications and everything else. Here's a good one, okay? The Kicker Key 200.4. What is the crossover slope?
I know.
Shh, John.
John knows. Rob knows because we already talked about it. So what is the
answer
crossover
is yes.
slope? Well,
160
there is
proof.
a number.
There it is. Whoop.
Oh, looks like Milo.
There it
Milo
is.
Peretti.
Who do you see there first? Who'd you get, Dereck?
Milo.
I saw Milo. Milo was first.
Okay, Bill, you need to verify that. If that's the case, reach out to him.
Yeah. And if Bill's wrong, you guys can just email him, billfrog@kicker.com.
All right, so this is in Bill's hands now. Bill's going to go back through the feed. He will find the first correct answer, and he will reach out to that person and have them PM with their information. But the correct answer is 24 dB per octave on the Key 200.4. That's a good question, Dereck. Thank you for asking that. It shows who's paying attention and who's not, if you got that answer right. So there's another one of these brand new, hot off the press, Unmasked Live t-shirts going out to a winner. Maybe Bill will chime in and tell us who the winner is and verify who that is as we go on. But in order for us to get down to some more cool stuff, John, we're going to shift gears. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready. Bring it on.
Let's do it.
Key 500.1 is the new hot topic. John, give us a little bit of background on this amplifier and tell us what it does.
This is actually a really cool subwoofer amplifier because, as we all know, a lot of the OEM systems have an automatic bass roll-off. So they're trying to protect those OEM stock speakers from anything below that infamous 40 hertz. So they start rolling that off pretty good. This amplifier has a DSP circuit that will go back in and it will correct that auto bass roll-off, and it'll take out the little bit of a bump. If you've ever put an RTA on a stock system, you'll sometimes see a pretty good bump between 50 and 70 hertz, that mid-bass region. This will flatten that out as well. So it does the equalization correction just like the Key 200, but it only plays up to 160 hertz, so it's only going to do it in the bass frequencies. But it is going to restore that automatic bass roll-off. And this does not do it with a microphone. It does do it with a specific test tone that you have to download from the support tab under kicker.com. And you've got two steps with this amplifier, two different files you'll have to download. You have to do a gain match track because you cannot clip the input to a DSP processor. It does not know what to do, and it's going to freak out and not give you the results you want. So you have to do the gain match track first to make sure you're not clipping the input to the amplifier, and then you do the frequency sweep, which will go back in and it will auto-correct the bass response that's being limited by that OEM DSP. So this is another really, really cool little product. And then, of course, you're talking about 500 watts of power from an amplifier that size. It's just really, really a nifty little amp. And you can always add remote subwoofer level control, so you got control of your bass level.
And as you can see, John, I know you're there talking. I've got a micro view here, which is fine with me, but I've got the Key 200.4 sitting in front of the 500 one, and it's not much bigger than the Key 200.4, but
It's
it
really
is a
not.
solid. No, and it's a solid 500 watt monoblock amplifier that will, as you said, compensate for whatever the factory radio is doing to the bass signal, whether it's artificial boosting or whether it's rolling off the low end prematurely. This will correct all that. So you're essentially getting all that full range bass that you want, then amplified to the amplifier and sent over to whatever subwoofer you want to power with the amplifier.
Yeah, and as you talked about before, I mean, this is a substantial amplifier. It is 500 watts of power, so don't expect to see a 15 amp fuse on this. It actually comes with an 8 gauge fuse holder. It's a serious little amplifier.
Actually, if I should probably turn around the other end here, I'll actually put it up here so Tim can get a shot of it here on the camera. But you can see on the end there, it does have a very nice terminal block connection there, and it's set up for 8 gauge power, 8 gauge ground. And also your speaker leads are here as well, and those will accept up to 8 gauge as well, if I remember right, John. I think it's 8 gauge across the board.
Oh yeah, it's a killer little amp.
It's a killer. And then I'm going to do a little manually turning here, and then I'm going to turn around the other end. That's the power and speaker end. And then you get to the other end. That's where your controls are located. There is a remote bass control knob available for this amplifier. It doesn't come with the amp. It's optional, correct. So if you want to be able to adjust the level of this amplifier in your system, you can add that remote bass level knob, and you can adjust the output of this amplifier from the front of your car once everything's dialed in and set. But this is the Key 500.1, and basically that's the second amplifier or the second key product that we added to the KEY portfolio. And basically with these two, now of course, all of you out there, yes, we've heard you. Once we've talked about these products, we know you're going to say, well, where's the KEY 5 channel? We want it all in one package. Well, you never know what's coming out of the KICKER labs. We're always cooking something different up. So that may or may not be something we're working on that could come out in the future. But really, with these two packages right here, these two small chassis, you essentially have a 5-channel amplifier, and you can run both of these together. John, correct me if I'm wrong, but to do that, you would run, which one first? Tell me how you would run these together.
You can actually set them up, you can connect both amplifiers and have them all installed properly. Now, the big thing you have to remember is with the KEY 200.4, since it is using a microphone, you could only have the speakers hooked up to the amplifier that are being tuned by the amplifier, and any other speaker that's in the vehicle has to remain off. So during its setup process, if you're just running it to the front stage in bi-amp mode and you have rear speakers, if the rear speakers are still playing when it's going through its setup mode, it's going to fail the setup process because it's going to detect those as noise that something's wrong. So you have to fade that signal to the front only, so only the KEY 200 is playing. The 500 does not matter since it's all done, electrically through the speaker outputs. It does not matter if there's another amplifier or any other speakers playing. I will tell you, when it goes through its setup process with those test tones, it can be rather annoying to listen to. So I would suggest if you have the 200.4 connected and it's already tuned, pull the fuse out of it and just let the 500 do its business without having to listen to it. But it's not going to affect the setup process if the 200.4 is playing.
Right, exactly. So if you're tuning the 200.4 to tie in and kind of elaborate on what John said, let's pretend you got a factory radio, you're using the KEY in bi-amp mode, and you're running just the front stage of your vehicle off the KEY, but the rear speakers are still connected to the factory radio. As John said, you would need to fade to the front so that those speakers are not on during the KEY setup process. And then inversely, if you had the KEY running the front and the rear speakers in the car, and you had another amplifier, whether it's a KEY 500.1 or another amp running your subwoofers, those subwoofers have to be off. So probably the easiest way would be to pull the remote lead on the amplifier driving your subwoofer, do the setup on the KEY amplifier, let it finish, and then you would bring your subwoofer back online and adjust it to blend into the system. Is that all correct,
absolutely.
John?
Yep, absolutely.
So that is part of the, no pun intended, the key there is you do need to set up the KEY in a quiet environment. If it picks up extraneous noise or outside, it could interpret that as one of its test tones or sweeps that it's going through. Since Robert actually did this in a consumer environment, did you have any issue with that, Robert, when you were setting up your KEY?
I did not, because I put it in the garage. I actually, believe it or not, I read the instructions.
No.
And they said to put it in a quiet environment, and I was like, hey, I'll put it in the garage and do it like that. It's a first for me, I know. You know, I noticed in the feed here, somebody asked something about getting a KEY tested. It sounds like Williston Audio Labs needs to get a KEY on the bench.
It's in the works.
Did you hear that, folks? It's in the works. So you asked for it. It's actually going to happen. Look for a video from your favorite dyno guy coming soon on the KEY 200.4.
And if you want to see one now, Quality Mobile Video already done one. So check theirs out.
Yes, that's correct. Quality Mobile Video already has one out, the 200.4, and it verifies the ratings that KICKER suggests. So the proof is there.
The only thing is, I guess you'll have to answer the question, though, Dereck, because everybody wants to know, do it bump, though?
That question is asked every day, Kip. In this family, at least. I'm not sure about your family, but this family, yes.
So now, this is the part where I'm going to play Educated Monkey, and I think I know what's going on here, but we're really going to we'll let John walk us through some of this. I'm going to move the KEY 200 and the KEY 500 out of the way, over here to the side table. And the next piece we've got here that we're going to talk about, this is the KEY lock. And this is the third, and you notice I say third, not final, but this is the third product that's kind of come out underneath the KEY umbrella. And the KEY lock is an amazing piece of technology. John, as you know, in a lot of the vehicles you work with, when you're trying to tap in to get a signal out of a car, there are outputs from factory radios or the factory amplifiers, because this will tie into either one. You can tie this to the factory radio or the factory amplifier up to how much power, John?
400 watts per channel.
So 400 watts per channel is what the key lock is designed to handle. And what you run into is you need to make sure if the output of this is going to be driving a full range signal or full range amplifier, you want to make sure that you got a full range signal coming in. So unless you've got an oscilloscope or other tools and know how to use them, you got to figure out if you're getting a full range signal or a high pass signal or a band pass signal or a low pass signal into the key. So what I'm going to do here real quick, John, I know this wasn't part of your demo, but I want to run through. Ernie, if you could, will you bring up the camera input for our RTA that we have right here? I'd like for people to see what we've got going on here. And what I'm going to show you is between the RTA and then I'm going to have Tim zoom in and actually get me a close-up on the key lock itself. I'm going to show you how very simply there's actually 4 LEDs on top, but 3 of them are actually a diagnostic tool so that you can ensure that you found a full range signal in your car. And I'll have to wait until Ernie gets this all set up back there. He's got to do some picture-in-picture work. He's got to get one camera in one spot and one camera in another spot, but he's getting that set up right now so that we can actually switch this on, and I'm going to show you how that happens. Now the setup we've got going on here, we actually have just a radio, just an aftermarket AM/FM CD. We're running everything off of a USB thumb drive, and that output is going over here into an IQ, this is the 1000.5 IQ amplifier. And what we're using is we're taking 2 of the outputs from this amplifier and we're feeding that into the input of the key lock. So basically what we're mimicking here is we have an amplifier. We're pretending that this might be an aftermarket or a stock amplifier that's in a vehicle, and that is feeding into the key. And what we're going to be able to look at here, I'm actually going to play tones out of the radio. I'm going to play them through here, and you will see them up on the screen. So what I'm going to do here first, let me get a 80 hertz sine wave, and I'm going to play that. So here's an 80 hertz sine wave, and as you can see up on the screen right there, we've got an 80 hertz signal that is now coming through onto the RTA. So I'm looking at the output of the key here. But what I want Tim to do is I want Ernie to bring in the close-up camera, get me off the screen. I don't matter. I need to get the key on here, Ernie. There you go. Zoom in on this one here, Timmy. Give me a good shot on this. So I'm going to turn up the input on the key. And as I'm doing this, you can see the RTA. As I turn the gain down, you can see what's happening here. As I turn the gain up, you can see what's happening here. And when I get to right there, you notice that this LED comes on right beside, there's writing here, it says low. And so as you can see also on the RTA right here, there's an 80 hertz tone that's coming out of the key lock. So if you didn't have a laptop, you didn't have an RTA, you didn't have any of these tools, and you had just plugged the key into, let's say you accidentally tapped into just the subwoofer output of the factory system you're working with, and then you go through here, the LED is telling you that no, all I have is a low signal. There's no mid-range, there's no mid-bass, there's no high-end. You have tapped into only a low-range frequency signal just by looking at the LED. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch tracks on the head unit here. And now I'm going up to the next tone, and this should be, I think, a 1 kilohertz. Yes, it is. It's a 1 kilohertz tone. And now what you notice is the low light, the low LED went off, and now it's moved over and it's on the mid light. And so it's telling me that all I'm seeing is mid-range signal. I don't have any bass, because all I'm playing into here is a 1K tone, so the low light is not lit because there's no low frequency there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change the track on the player again, and we're going to go up, and I think the next tone is 8 kilohertz, and it is, it's 8K. And as you can see, the RTA, the 1K tone has gone away, and now it's an 8 kilohertz tone, and you can see here on the key lock, the LED is lit in blue besides the high. And so it's letting me know all I'm getting here is high frequency. That's all that I'm seeing. So I've tapped into, if this was a factory system, I've tapped into the high pass output that may be driving some middlers, which are those 2 3/4 or 3-inch drivers in the dash, or it could be just a separate tweeter on the door or something like that. But I do not have a full range signal. Now the cool part about that is, number one, it's real easy. When you buy a key lock, you have a diagnostic tool to help you know you've tapped into the right signal just by looking at the output from the radio. You can play test tones that are readily available online. You could play single tones, or what I'm going to go to here is pink noise, because I want you to see this. Okay. So here's pink noise, and if you look at the RTA, you can see that we've got everything from 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz showing up on the RTA. And if we go down here and we look at the key lock, you notice that the low light is lit, the mid light is lit, and the high light is lit. So the key lock is telling you, just with 3 LEDs, that you do have a full range signal that you have tapped into coming into the key lock. So the cool part about this is, right out of the gate with the key lock, you can see that you're getting the right signal. If all you were doing is using this to add a subwoofer amplifier, all you need to do is get the low signal. So if you found the low output from the factory system, the crossed over signal, it's there. If you already tied into a full range signal, it would tell you it's full range. If you tied into the mid range or the high end output, it'll tell you only have that and there's no bass. I mean, as John can testify, I know some people who originally used this, they hook it all up and they were running subwoofer amplifiers and they're like, I've got no bass. And they're like, well, do you have bass going into the key lock to begin with? And they tapped into the wrong wires in the factory system, and they didn't look at the diagnostics to determine what frequencies were coming into the key lock. And I know this wasn't part of your demo, John, but I wanted to add this to the demo because I thought it was important for people to understand this.
Yeah, it's absolutely important.
So the key, besides being able to do everything we're going to get into in a second, it is a diagnostic tool to help you easily, without having to have an RTA or a scope or any of the other tools that you may not own or can go use or know how to use. This is real easy. You've hooked up the key, you've tapped into your speaker leads, you simply turn it on, run some test tones through your radio, and boom, the LEDs are going to tell you, did I get it right? Am I halfway right? Am I a third way right? Where do I need to go? And that'll obviously prompt you to do more research, find the correct wires you need to tie into because you're not tied into the wires giving you a full range signal. Do you have anything to add into that, John?
Yeah, absolutely. We need to kind of elaborate that there is a threshold that those LEDs are triggered at. So if you start turning the gain up and say you get the mid and the high frequency LED to light up, but not the low frequency, you keep turning the gain up, eventually you're going to get to a point where there's enough low frequencies to trigger that light. So make sure when you're determining the frequency range that as you turn the gain up and down, all 3 lights, or at least the frequency you're concerned about, triggers, at the same time, or at least first.
And I just did that, John. I backed the input gain on the key down. You can see now that the low light is occasionally blinking. It means I'm just at the threshold. And what's funny, if you look over at the RTA that's in the screen, you can see the low end is just a little bit lower than everything else. And if I bring that level up, then that blinking LED will stop happening, and then it'll be there. And you see, you look at the RTA, the low frequency came up as well.
Right, but like I say, if you've got a 6 dB per octave crossover at 200 hertz, high pass, eventually you can turn that input gain up high enough to get that subwoofer, the low frequency light, to light up. So just make sure that, if you're looking for a full range signal, that all 3 lights come on relatively about the same time. It isn't crucial that they're 100% instantly at the same time, but if you've got to rotate that gain, an eighth or a quarter turn to get that light to light up that's not lit, then yes, it's lacking in those frequencies.
Okay, so now that, and we told you this was a live demonstration, so be prepared for anything to go right or wrong as we do this, but that first part there shows you kind of the diagnostic tools that you can use built into the key. What we're going to do here, John, is I actually want to go through and we're going to show people how this works. So Ernie, if you could bring up, oh, you've already got it up, it's down there in the picture, my bad. So I'm going to switch screens here real quick. And I'm going to go to, and if anyone's familiar with this, this is actually the tweak interface to the IQ amplifiers. And right now, we're using the rear channels. That's what we're feeding into the key. We're using channel 3, which would be rear left, and channel 4, which we have designated as rear right. And there's really nothing going on here. As you can see, the EQs are set flat. So John, what would you like to mess up here?
I'll just go ahead and mess up the EQ on one of the channels.
All right, I'm going to take that and boost that there. Let's drop this down a little bit. Let's do that. Let's do that. Oh, this ought to sound really bad. Let's do that. And then let's suck that out a little bit. And then let's go back here and let's pull a little bit of the low end down a little bit. So as you can see in that little picture-in-picture window, what I've done is I've really messed up the EQ inside of the IQ amplifier. So now the left channel, I've just added all that equalization to. And now what I want to show you, before we go into the programming routine, because while it's doing its thing, you lose the ability to see anything because it mutes the output and does all its work. So while we've done this, I'm going to go back to the RTA. I'm going to go back to our pink noise track because this is going to be fun. John's laughing because he already knows what kind of fun this is going to be. Okay, so now
that looks like a factory curve.
That looks exact. So now what you're seeing, and I'm here at the RTA, I'm going to go to just the left channel. So now this is the left channel that we tweakified inside the IQ amplifier. So you can see all the different things we've done. This was basically a flat curve 20 to 20. We've messed it up pretty good. And if I go to just the right channel, which we didn't do anything to.
Yeah, you probably got them linked.
I got them linked. You're correct. I do have them linked. Let me go back and unlink that real quick.
And,
so let's go in here.
Just for fun, Kip, why didn't you go ahead and apply a completely different EQ curve to the right channel?
Sure,
Because
I can do that.
The key lock will correct separate left and right equalization, which is one of its.
Kip, make it a V pattern, because everybody knows the V pattern.
The V patterns? All right, so let's go over here to this channel. We'll do this. We'll grab this up. We'll bring this up. We'll bring this up. Bring this down. We'll bring this down. Bring this down. Do a little boost up here. Now we're really going to have some fun here, because the more the key has to correct, the longer it takes. But there we go. There's kind of a boost at the bottom, a suck out in the middle, and a boost at the top, and that's on our right channel. And then on our left channel, we have that original we did. Now what's cool about that is we're going to go back to the RTA. Here's our left channel that you can see. That's how it's been messed up. And now we'll go to the right channel, and you can see it change. And that's how we've messed up the right channel. So John, we have two channels that are completely messed up here that have issues. They need help.
Yep. Yeah, it needs help, needs to correct that. Now, something else that we can do, if you are so inclined, let's go ahead and add some delay to the left channel.
I want to do that, John, but if you'll work with me, I actually want to do that as a separate test.
Okay.
Because we can then show the comb filtering, and I think that is awesome to show that that's how that corrects it in time alignment.
Yeah, because it will correct time alignment as well.
Correct. So here we've got, so if we can pretend that this is your factory radio that has a preset EQ curve that looks like this, obviously if you're putting in better speakers, you're putting in more power, you want to start with an input signal to your amplifiers that is as flat as possible from 20 to 20, and then you do your acoustical equalization after the fact to tune the car to your liking, whether it's the speakers in the car, the way you like to listen to it, all those other things that happen, but you need to start with a flat signal, which obviously we do not have here. So John, at this point, this key lock obviously is ready to go. We need to start from step one and actually do an automatic setup routine on this. So where do we go?
Well, the first thing you're going to want to do, Kip, is you're going to want to basically do gain matching. Just like we have to do at the 500, you have to go to the gain match mode, because you cannot clip the input to a DSP processor. It does not like DC. So first thing we want to do is go into the gain match mode, and that's where you're going to get the LED 3 and 4, which are going to represent the left and right channels. You want to make sure those LEDs are off while you're playing the gain match track with the radio at 3/4 volume with all the tone controls set flat.
Okay, so I'm at 3/4 volume, and I am playing the gain match track, which is available as a download from KICKER.com. And you can see in the picture-in-picture window the RTA, and you can see I'm holding the key lock in my hand. So what I'm going to do, like John said, is we're going to start bringing the gain input up on the key lock, and you'll see the LEDs. Okay, those LEDs are blinking. Now what we need to do at this point, John, correct me if I'm wrong, we need to turn it down a little bit, correct?
Kip, I still think you're in the RTA mode, because LED 3 and 4 are going to be the clipping indicators.
I didn't put it into programming mode, John. That's my fault.
It happens to the best of us. Trust me. Been there, done that.
It does. Like I said, it's a live show. Be prepared for everything and anything.
Kip, you're doing a great job, I think. Keep it up, man.
Yes, you are.
I mean, you're in the hot seat here, and I think you're doing good. So keep it up.
That's why I elected to be quarantined back here, so he could do it all. I could just tell him what he's doing.
So, John, tell me, to get into programming mode, if I remember right, it's hold the programming button for 6 seconds, correct?
I believe so. And like I say, I've not done it for a little while since I've been quarantined, but I could sure pull that information up real quick and let you know.
I thought we were on here for professional tonight. What's going on, fellas?
That was a typo. It was professional, not professional. It's professional. So what we got in here is I'm going to get out of John, you got the manual pulled up there? I've got one here. Because you got to get the LED routine right. And I feel silly, but I do not have them memorized. So
Yeah, like I say, it's been a little while since I've done it. Yes, I do have the manual pulled up. Okay. Of course, I got to find the right step. Because if you do not do this properly, it will not work correctly.
Button 3,
you got to make
hold.
sure, and this is something else I want to stress, is when you're doing the gain match, you cannot use a sine wave. You can't use the 50 hertz or the 1 kilohertz test tone, because you actually saw when you were doing that track, it was actually sweeping from high to low frequency. So it's going to look for clipping at all frequencies, 20 to 20. And that's very important because we've actually tested some factory radios that, with a 1K tone, you could run up to, say, 34 in the volume. But when you played the actual test track sweep, it would actually start clipping at 22 or 23 on the volume control, much lower, almost half volume before it was clipping. So you got to make sure the signal is not clipped. If you do not get the result you're looking for on the output, turn the volume down on the source unit and then run the test again.
Okay, so John, here we are. We're ready to go. The green light is on. And what we have to do, we have to press and hold the programming button for 8 seconds. It's going to night rider up. It's going to night rider back. And then we let go.
And you'll have the first LED lit, so that tells you you're in gain match mode. So play
So now we're going to start our gain match track. And again, this is a track you download from kicker.com. You throw it on a thumb drive or a CD, however you want to get it into your vehicle. You can put it in your phone, come across Bluetooth, however you want to do it. And then once this track is playing and the first LED is lit, I'm going to start bringing the gain up on the input. And you're going to see...
Eventually. There it is.
There it goes. Okay, so those LEDs are blinking right now, and what they're telling you, like John was explaining, it's measuring the different frequencies and their output level. It's running through a sweep right now, and it's showing you that you're at max input. And what we have to do now is we simply start backing the gain knob off until we go for a few seconds and those lights don't light up, and that means you're not clipping the input to the DSP. This is a very important... Yeah, at any frequency. And this is an important process because if any of you have ever heard what digital clipping sounds like, it is not pretty. Digital clipping is a very bad thing. If you set your gains properly, it's never an issue. And that's what this setup routine is for, is so that you can set those gains properly. So I'm going to go back to here. Ernie, if you'll go back to the close-up camera, please. Thank you. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you while I turn this down. You can see the LEDs. I'm just going to start backing the gain off a little bit. Backing the gain off a little bit. Backing the gain off a little bit, backing the gain off a little bit. There's just one LED, I'm backing the gain off a little bit. Still one LED, backing the gain off a little bit. A little bit more.
And you need to give it 10 seconds. At least 10 seconds.
Yep, so there I'm gonna go 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
And for those of you watching, if you notice the picture-in-picture, the RTA is blank. That's because when it's in the setup process, it does mute the output, so you don't have to listen to it.
Correct. So now that we've used the gain match track and we've set the input to the key lock to where it needs to be, we have to advance the track on the CD player, whatever device you're using. We want to go to the next one, which is noise floor. Correct, John?
Correct. And you have to start the noise floor track before you actually set the key product to do its testing. Because if you start the processing and it's still in the gain match mode, it's going to fail the setup and you'll have to reset it. So go to the next track, which is noise floor. Once the noise floor, once it's playing, push the key button.
Okay, so now we're going to push the key button and that's going to take it into testing. There it goes.
Yep, it starts flashing. Now your hand's off for anywhere from 3 to 8 minutes. So the more things it has to correct, the longer it's going to take.
Well, it's not doing the correction yet. It's ready to do the correction. Now, the first LED was blinking, and it stopped blinking. It moved to the second LED. That first LED blinking was it determining the noise floor, basically the bottom for the DSP. Now that it's completed that task, it's blinking the next LED. We advance tracks on the unit, and we're going to go into the full test setup.
Full test.
And so I'm going to advance the track to full test. So that's the next track.
And your LED will go solid. It'll take it a second. There it goes.
There it goes.
And now
Okay,
you'll
so now-
watch the LEDs.
So now what we're going to do, John, while we're going to sit here, I don't want us to just sit here and watch this box, think about it. I want us to actually discuss the features that are in the key lock processor. So tell me the things that the key lock processor can correct for. There are some major things it does. Let's go over those while it's thinking about it.
Well, first of all, let's really, really reinforce the fact that if you're keeping a factory source unit, I don't care what factory source unit, what brand, if you're using the factory source unit, this product is absolutely essential every single time. And in fact, even if you're going to use a Key 200.4, this is going to enable the Key 200.4 to do an even better job because it's going to correct up front the signal going into it. So what the key lock will do is going to take anywhere from 250 millivolts to 40 volts on the input, which is up to 400 watts of direct input into the RCA. And it's going to basically step that signal down to a 10 volts. So there's your line output, your high to low level converter. If you have an amplifier that needs that, it's also going to give you the speaker to RCA conversion because it's going to do it through the unit itself. So that's another great feature. It gives you the ground isolation like you have with a normal line output converter. But now we're going to start talking about all the DSP processing that is in this piece because this is really, really powerful. And at $100, I mean, there's nothing that can touch what this does. So it's going to just compensate for on this speaker output, not acoustically like the 200.4, but it's going to condition that EQ to flatten out that frequency response. When we start talking about biquads, how many biquads, in the equalization does it compensate for? There is no limit on this piece. It will use as many biquads as necessary to flatten out the frequency response. So it's not just a 1-band, 10-band, 20-band EQ. It will use, literally, if it has to use 20,000, individual equalization points to correct for it, it is going to do that, plus or minus 0.5 dB, or plus, it's going to do in increments of plus or minus 0.5 dB, 12 dB boost and 12 dB cut. And it will actually go through, sample the frequency response, correct for it, and then it's going to go back through that process and do it again. It actually does it 4 separate times to ensure it's going to compensate for the equalization that's built into that factory radio. And it'll do that independently for both channels. It's also going to detect time correction that's built into that factory radio, and it's going to compensate for that factory time correction. So what it doesn't do, it can't go back and shut off the factory time correction, but it's going to add that same amount of time delay that's in one channel back into it on the output, so it's going to zero it out. It's going to essentially cancel it. Now, the big buzzword in the past couple of years has been something called an all-pass filter. Dereck, that should have been a cool question for you to ask, is what is an all-pass filter? See how many people got that one right. All-pass filters are very, very, well, they're kind of hard to understand. You think all-pass filter, well, it passes all frequencies. How can it be a filter? Well, what an all-pass filter does is it actually delays, I shouldn't say delays, but it alters the phase relationship between the left channel and the right channel at a specific frequency only. So if you have an all-pass filter at 250 hertz, the only way you can detect an all-pass filter is by summing the RTA response between the left and right channels. You have to add them together, because since we're talking about phase response, you can only detect phase in relationship to another signal. So you actually have to use the left and right signals summed together. So if you have the left channel has a flat frequency response when measured independently, you measure the right channel, and there it is. It's actually calculating. So in case you guys noticed, it's doing little Knight Rider mode. That means it's doing its calculations. It's already sampled everything.
Yeah, it's actually already done.
Oh, actually, that's right. It does the in and out LEDs when it's calculating. The Knight Rider says it's ready to go. But back to the all-pass filters real quick. So the all-pass filters, if you measure the left signal, you have a flat RTA. You measure the right signal, you have a flat RTA. But you sum those two together with a mono pink noise signal. It's got to be correlated. It's got to be mono. You'll see at 250 hertz, you will have a dip in frequency response only when summed together. And that's only detectable when you actually combine the left and right channels. That's telling you that it's thrown 250 hertz out of polarity on one channel or the other one, and you cannot correct for that with any other type of device other than the key lock. Now, not only will the key lock detect and correct one all-pass filter, it will do up to 3 independent all-pass filters. We did some
per channel.
deep, yeah, whichever channel it has, it'll do 3 all-pass filter corrections. Now, we actually did some testing on a 2017 Corolla, I think it was, and it had 2 all-pass filters that were so close together. It was like 215 and 280 hertz. So it had 2 separate all-pass filters that close together. As long as the frequency bands do not overlap, the key will compensate for 3 completely independent all-pass filters. And there is no other piece of electronics that will do that.
So basically in this key piece, and it's completed, I'm going to kind of take over here a little bit and kind of get us down on the highway on this. Once the key is completed, it goes into that Night Rider mode, so you see it flapping back and forth, and that means it's completed and done. So I'm actually going to reach down, I'm going to press the button. Hey Ernie, there you go, thank you sir. Come back to this. I'm going to reach down and press the button.
Because it's passing signal now.
Right. So now what I've done, all the LEDs are lit, the green light's on, I press the button to accept the programming, and basically the key lock is now done with everything we did. And to give everyone a refresher, I'm going to go back in here and bring up the tweak software. You can see this is what we did to the left channel. There was all that different spikes and boosts that we put into the left channel. Over here was the patented Big B smiley V curve that he wanted to see on the right channel. So that's this one right here. We saw the results on the O-scope before the key took over, but now here you're looking at the left channel and look at that. You don't see any of those things that were there. They're practically gone. You're back to an almost completely flat pink noise signal coming through there. And if I go over to the right channel, I'm looking at just the left on the RTA right now. I'm going to go to the right channel, and there you go. There's the right channel, and you notice how messed up it was.
Now, Kip, we should also point out, if you're wondering why all the LEDs are on the unit, of course, we probably don't have to talk about the green power LED on the far left. But in the beginning, you were talking about it's, 3-band RTA, and the frequencies are from 20 to 200 hertz for low, 200
Correct.
to 2 kilohertz for mid, 2 kilohertz to 20 kilohertz for the high frequency. Those 3 LEDs, the low, mid, and high LED, are now illuminated, telling me I have corrected all 3 of those frequency bands. You have a fully, full bandwidth signal to work with. And the right LED on the right, the far number 4 LED, is telling you that the processor is on.
And here's what's really cool about it. Now that we're done, and you can actually see on the RTA, we're looking at just the right channel here. I'm going to reach down. Now that we're completed, if I push the button on the key lock processor, Ernie, come on back here. If I just press it one time, you can see that LED turns off, and there's everything you saw at the beginning of this demo before the key lock did all of its processing. There is the ugly, nasty, smiley face curve that we created into the unit, and then when I turn the key processing back on, which literally just press the button, the LED comes on, and you'll see that it goes into effect, and you can see there's what it does to the curve.
Go ahead and show them the left channel doing the same thing, Kip.
Sure, absolutely. So that's the right channel. We'll go over to the left channel. Here's the left channel. And of course, it looks like a flat curve because that's what it is after processing. I'll go ahead and I will flip the button on the key. Just press it one time. Turn off that LED, and there, boom, there you go.
And I'll be honest with you, that is such a radical curve. The key lock only has 12 dB plus or minus, so you can actually get some curves that it can't fully compensate for, but it's going to be a whole lot better than it was before. And the other thing it will do, and we didn't mention before, is it does compensate for output level mismatches between left and right channels. So it will basically balance the output.
Yeah, and John bringing that up is, in factory radios, sometimes they will have the gain on one channel, not the balance control on the radio. Your balance could be right in the center, but they may have the right channel running hotter than the left channel in their DSP because they're trying to compensate and get their speakers to sound a certain way or create an image or a staging in the vehicle. And what the key lock will do, it will detect that and it will defeat that imbalance so that you have a perfect left and right balanced output so that they're not out of imbalance.
Yeah,
so if you look at what up to 12 dB. So if you look at everything that this will do, is you can tie this right into your factory radio. It will defeat all pass filters that may be present in your radio. It will compensate for the left and right channel imbalances that it may exist in your radio. It will re-EQ the signal back to a completely flat signal. And now what you have is a signal that you can feed into anything you want. From this point forward, you now have, let's just pretend I just took a radio out and I put in a nice aftermarket radio that gives me flat 20 to 20. I just did this to my factory radio, so now I can keep my steering wheel controls, I can keep everything that's along for the ride. The key lock allows me to get my pristine flat signal, removing all those things that they have put in through the factory DSP in the radio, and now I can start from scratch. I can add whatever amplifiers I want, I can add whatever speakers I want, and I can tune with whatever I want past this to get the sound that I want in my vehicle. And as you said, John, how much is this?
$99 retail?
Okay, I really, I want you guys to understand and see the progression we've got going on here. And we talked about the KEY 200.4, and you see what it does. You see we've brought that technology and came up with a version of it for correct bass with a matching 500-watt amplifier, because really a 500-watt bass amp and 200-watt by 4 makes a great system. That's a great power combination package. And then you move into what you see here with the key lock, and then it allows you to completely correct a signal coming out of a factory radio and get you, as you can see on the RTA here, a flat signal so that you can do anything you want with. And it does all of that automatically with test tones that we've designed that goes through that process, and you get I hate to say this, John, but this is literally only the third time that I've done this, and the other 2 times were before the show, and I simply did those so I could make sure the RTA and everything was working. So I had not used a key lock, admittedly, until today.
And I know you haven't. That's why I said, really,
It looks like I've lost
impressed.
John's audio.
Someone muted me.
I lost somebody's audio. You there, John?
I'm here.
We can hear John.
You're probably the only one
Maybe
that
it's
can't
me.
hear me.
Maybe I'm not getting any audio.
Just from John.
Now, this piece really is...
Hey, John, if you can hear me, John, keep talking with Dereck and Robert. I got to swap out headsets. My battery died. Go ahead and take over for just a second.
So, yeah, this piece really is amazing what it does, for $100. And, as Kip said, you don't have to be an electrical engineer to operate it. You don't have to have really expensive test tools, but you do have to follow the manual. You have to make sure that you do the steps and the proper procedure, and you watch for the specific results. And then you do have to interpret, basically, as far as the RTA function of it, that 3-band, frequency response detector. Do I have the signal I want? Now, here again, if you just get the low and the mid LED to light up and you just connect them a subwoofer to it, hey, that's great. Even if you just get the low frequency LED to light up and you're just connected to subwoofer, no problem, as long as that light lights up first. But if you want a full bandwidth, you got to make sure all 3 of the frequency indicators do illuminate. And like I say, that is such a killer little piece for what it does for $100. Nothing in the industry can do what this piece does to fix that OEM signal, and especially the fact that nobody has anything that can do anything with an all-pass filter, and this will correct 3 of them. I can't drive that point home enough that, for $100, there's nothing at any price that will touch this piece.
Yeah, no doubt.
And of course, I'm having fun here right now, John. I'm turning it on off. You guys keep talking. Showing what it does is pretty cool. Go ahead, Robert.
I was going to say, did you mention how much the output voltage was on this, the max output
No,
voltage?
I actually did. It does take 400 watts on the input, and it'll give you up to 10 volts of unclipped signal on the output.
Yeah, buddy.
And
So I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I was also going to mention, in case I forgot to mention earlier, the KEY 500 will also accept 400 watts right into the RCA input.
So for us as a brand, I'm going to kind of just pat ourselves on the back just a little bit, because I'm really proud of where we're going with this key technology. And hopefully you can see from the 204 to the 501 to the key lock to the...
Whatever.
I can't really talk... Whatever. There might...
Yeah, the key DSP I've been asking for.
Here's the thing. This is the show. If you want to be on the inside track and you want to know about those products that come out, we've already kind of let the cat out of the bag, because we showed everything coming for 2021 in the first half of the year. But KICKER Unmasked Live is where we're going to talk about those new products that you don't know about yet. So you never know which one of these shows coming up. We may be talking about a brand new product that's not in the stream yet. And are there going to be other cool key products? Well, I don't know. We went from 1 to 2 to 3, and you can see the success that these products have. It's solving problems, real everyday problems in real vehicles. I'd say we probably got some other secrets up our sleeve.
Yeah, and I think, we really got to give credit to our engineers, because this is not technology we went and bought or hired someone else to design. We developed this completely in-house. I mean, we have got some amazing, audiophiles and just, geeks out there that just love this and love it with a passion.
We need to give Kip a baton.
Yeah, I'm actually, I know it sounds crazy. That one right there, hit it. You were on it. No, down one more. Hit that one. That's the one I want. There you go. I'm actually watching the comment feeds. I'm trying to find some that really tie into our discussion here that make sense coming up. So Chris, he asked, so I need this if I have the KEY 200.4. Well, Chris, the answer is not that easy. If you've got a factory radio that doesn't have a DSP, it's not doing any all pass or phase filtering, it doesn't have any equalization built in, if it's just and that'd probably be pre-90s would be my best guess if I had to pick a year. If you're looking at pre-90s, it's not going to have any of those things that you need to compensate for the key or with the key lock. The KEY 200.4 will take care of that on its own. It will re-EQ, it'll give you the acoustic time alignment you need. But let's say you've got a newer generation vehicle. You can put the KEY 200.4 right in the vehicle and it will do its acoustic alignment, but it's having to do a whole lot more work because it's having to compensate for the factory EQ curve and do some acoustic tuning, and you may reach the limitations of what the EQ is just capable of. So if you've got a newer generation vehicle that has all pass filtering in it, that has some bass roll off in it, that has equalization that's already in it, our advice would be absolutely run a key, because that's going to give you a flat signal to begin with. Now you're getting an electrically flat signal, and now the KEY 200.4, it can go in and do the acoustic tuning via the microphone to get that sound we want in the cabin acoustically. So both products can absolutely be used together. They're not going to have to be used together. It's really going to be dependent on the vehicle you're using, and does it have the things that you need the key to correct for, or does it not? The cool part about it is it's $100, and you see how easy it does complex work to get you a flat signal back in your car. I mean, Ernie, when you get a chance, bring back up the screen here on my laptop. So I'd like to put that back up on the screen. I know you're bouncing a bunch of, Ernie's my monkey back there on the switcher, so you can see that. I've got the key defeated, but if I turn the key back on, you can see that just that fast, it corrects for those anomalies that exist inside the factory system. So that was a good question. I wanted to bring that up on screen, John. I didn't want to interrupt you on that, but that's a good question. And that's the answer. It's going to depend on which vehicle you have and what the factory radio has in it, and what do we need to correct for to get around it. Can the key do a decent job on its own if it has those things? Yes, it can do a decent job, but the thing it can't do is the KEY 200.4 cannot do anything about all pass filters. To take care of those, you're going to have to put a key lock into the system. And the equalization, like I said, if you let the key lock get you a flat signal first, and you've got all pass filters to begin with that you got to get rid of, now the key can have even more room to do its job to get you that acoustical signature sound that we're looking for. So if you want to tie into that.
Yeah, the other guys, what do you think it'd take time-wise to correct the EQ like that? If you knew what you were doing and had an RTA and a microphone, how long do you think it'd take you to correct that EQ?
That one there?
Any of them.
Yeah. No one minded Dereck's skills installing speed and that type of stuff. Maybe a day, maybe a whole day. Who knows?
And look how quick that did it. I mean, I'm not picking on you guys, please, and I know that. And I know you can do it a lot quicker than that. But I mean, even if you're skilled, it's going to take you probably an hour of listening to paint noise and adjusting EQs and going back and forth. This does it all automatically.
Yeah, and it's well worth it.
I mean,
bring up that comment right there. Come on down. Up one, up, right there. Show that one. Thank you. Okay, that amp don't work at all in a 2018 Challenger. John, I'm going to ping pong on you with this one, because I know why it doesn't work in the Challenger, and you know why it doesn't work in the Challenger, because you need to add one other piece to it.
Yep, you need something called a KISS load.
Go ahead, John.
Is a 25 ohm resistor. So the Chryslers and a lot of you're going to start seeing this more and more. The 60 ohm load that's built into the KX and KXMA amplifiers and into the KEY 204, The 60 ohm load is not enough to satisfy their criteria before it goes into protection. And that's especially, when the Hellcats, the 2017 and up Hellcats were the first ones that had this problem. They need a 25 ohm load. That's why we offer the 2 and 4 channel KISS loads. That the 2 channel is 25 ohms per channel. It's 400 watts of input. And what this does, it just provides that load that factory radio has to have to operate correctly. It does not step the voltage down. If you run 400 watts into that KISS load, it's going to give you a 40 volt output. But to get it to work, you'll run the KISS load into the key lock, and then the key lock into the 204. So you use them all together, hey, you're good, you're golden. That's part of what we're doing here, is to educate you guys. There's a little bit of thought process, and it's just, there's some experimentation with some of these vehicles if you're not familiar with what you're going to need, but we should have the tools you need to make it work.
I'm going to turn this off again because I love watching how this thing works. I'm glad Ernie's focused on it. I'm going to let it do it, and then I'll bring it back. I know I am. I can't help it. I was raised a geek, born a geek.
That's why we love you, Kip.
I know. That's why I like you guys too. But that was a great question, and I wanted to bring that up because, and to tie in and go a little bit further what John said, is the protection circuitry that factory radios have started putting in. It goes back a little bit, and we're actually in what we like to call Gen 3, and they've actually gone to lower impedance requirements. And what it really boils down to is the factory doesn't want their radio playing into a short. Initially, it was into a dead or a shorted speaker because that would cause damage to the amplifier. So they did that so that you would have a way for the factory radio to go, okay, here's a condition that I can't get into. I don't want to play this. Let me turn off the output so I'm not going to burn up the internal amplifier. And so these protective loads that the factory put in allowed them to send signals out and bring them back and analyze them and go, okay, am I driving a good speaker or a dead short speaker or an open circuit? And they keep changing it. So if you look at the KICKER, we made FIT, and then we made FIT 2, and then we came out with these. And what it is FIT worked with the first generation of these resistor loads that were necessary to fool a radio into passing a signal. Because once you take the speaker load off, the radio thinks it's playing into an open circuit. And then Generation 2 came along. Of course, we came out with FIT 2 to address that issue. And now we're in Generation 3. And as John said, it's actually a pretty low impedance load that you need to fool these. And if some of you out there have seen the pictures, and if not, you can actually go find them. Guys are actually taking, and you do need a big sandstone resistor so that it will handle the heat that's dissipated with the signal passing through it to keep that radio turned on. And I've seen some dashes that if they weren't caught on fire, they were really close to it because there's a lot of heat there, where guys just basically wrap or solder these sandstone resistors behind the dash. They put them hanging off the back of the radio, and that's not safe. It's not safe at all. So actually, Tim, our camera guy, who is an all-around hero, he actually brought this out. Yeah, I do have one. This is the KISS Load 2 channel, and I'm going to actually put this over here on the table so Tim can zoom in on it.
It looks like a mini amplifier.
Yeah, it looks exactly like a mini amplifier, and the thing with that is it is so much heat that we actually put these resistors into a small heat sink. It looks like a mini amp, and so you can mount this in a safe place in the car, whether it's under the seat, behind a glove box where there's some cooling that could go on, definitely not stuffed underneath behind a radio. Maybe you could put this in a center console. John and I have had a lot of experience installing in cars, and there's lots of places you get creative, but it just needs to cool some. So what's happened is technology has kept moving on the factory radio side to the point where we can't incorporate this much into a key lock or things like that because of the heat and everything. So it's actually two separate devices. So now if you've got a Gen 1
every time.
Correct. So if you've got a Gen 1 or a Gen 2 circuit in a factory radio that you need to fool or bypass, the key lock or the key 200.4, the key 500.1 out of the box will work with those. But if you've got a Gen 3 system, this is the solution that is safe, reliable, and works. Is this will keep that factory radio turned on safely, and then you simply come out the output of this and go into the key products or other amplifiers that you want to operate with. But this is how you do it safely, and that's why when I saw that question come up, I wanted to flag that one, John, because if you take a product and put it in any of these cars with a Gen 3 and you're not using a load like this, the radio will not pass a signal, and people inadvertently think that the amplifier or the processor or whatever they've hooked up doesn't work, and that's not the case. It's actually the protection circuit in the factory radio saying, no, I'm not going to pass a signal. This allows that protection circuit to say it's safe and pass a signal. And this does not affect the frequency response. This simply allows you to get that signal out of the radio. So now, I'm glad he asked that question, because it really got us into a case here where we can talk about why you need a KISS load and what it's applicable for and why you need those. So these are the building blocks. You may not need a KISS load. If you don't buy it. Just buy a KISS lock or a key or any of our other amplifiers that'll work, fit too. But if you're into a Gen 3 radio, add this and you're good to go, and it'll get you around that problem. And I know even our guys up in tech, because even we don't have a complete comprehensive list about, okay, what radios have Gen 1, Gen 2, or Gen 3. It really boils down to, if you put in an amplifier or a key product and you get no signal, add this. You're not going to hurt the radio adding this. Add this, and magically you're going to pass a signal and everything's good to go.
So if we want to have a little bit of fun, I don't mean to draw this out too much. I know we're running over on time, but with these new Gen 3 radios, every time that radio turns on or comes out of mute or does anything where the audio is muted and comes back on, it actually samples every single speaker wire for short to 12 volts, short to ground, AC impedance, and DC resistance. Every single wire, every single time it comes out of mute or turns on. That is why you have to have that load, because a 60 ohm load is not low enough resistance to satisfy all the tests. And with that testing, the reason they do all those tests, obviously, it's to protect their OEM circuits. And we all know with a Class D amplifier, if there's no load on it, it can burn itself up. So, and if it's shorted, it can burn itself up. But more importantly, with their setup, they can actually, with the way they test it, they can detect a tweeter being blown in a coax and throw that radio into protection so it doesn't damage something. That's why they go through all that testing. That's why you need that 25 ohm load.
Real quick, I almost feel bad, because my mantra is we run this show for 90 minutes and we're done. But if everyone's willing to hang on for just a few more minutes, I would like to run one more key test, but it'll take us about probably a total of 10 minutes to make that happen, max. If you guys are willing to stay tuned in, I want to move in and I want to show one more test on this. And I think, based on what I've seen here tonight, we may actually do another half of a show dedicated to the key lock, because there's even some more things we want to talk about. But the last thing I'd like to show before I go is I'm going to show you real quick. I'm going to turn the EQ, the key lock equalization and everything off, and you can see there in that window what happens. And so there's that radical curve that Dereck wanted to see on the one channel. There's channel right, and here's the other curve on the other channel, channel left. And now I'm going to turn the key processor back on, and lickety split, turn the key back on, and boom, there you go.
And Kip, just to point out, you guys are seeing that EQ adjust slowly. I mean, it's taken about 2 seconds to do that. It actually does that adjustment instantly, but since that RTA is an averaging RTA, it does take a second to show you the finalized result.
True, very true. Thanks for that, John. That is true. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back into the Tweak software, and I'm going to reset. I'm going to reset the EQ to flat on the right channel. I'm going to reset the EQ to flat on the left channel. And then I'm going to go in. John, if I'm remembering right to do this, go ahead and let's get this on camera so we can show how I'm going to mess this up. So if I
yeah, you got to get it into setup mode.
Yeah, so I got to go into, okay, and then it's the third LED.
That's the reset. The third LED will completely reset.
That's what I want to do.
Yep, if you hold that, it's going to completely deprogram. Just basically do a factory reset, and it'll completely power off.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. So press and hold on the third LED. And I think it's 10 seconds if I remember what Colin told me correctly.
Yep.
There it goes. Now I let go.
Let up on the LED, and it's completely powered off. It is totally reset the microprocessor.
And now it's come back online. So now, correct. So we just removed all of the work the key did to correct those two curves we did are now gone. It's back into its out of the box, ready to go mode. And so what I want to do here is let's go in to the Tweak software, and what I'm going to do, John, I'm going to take channel 3 and I'm going to throw, how much delay you want to throw on here, John? 5 milliseconds?
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right, let's throw 5 milliseconds of delay on there.
Dealer's choice.
Dealer's choice. All right, so there's 5 milliseconds of delay. So as you can see in the pop-up window, a little picture-in-picture in here, this is the advanced tab on the Tweak software for the IQ amplifiers. And what I've done is I've gone into the left rear speaker, which is the one we're using for our channel left, and I've added 5 milliseconds of delay to channel 3. And then on the right channel, I probably need, are these combined? Let's see here.
Yeah, make sure they're not linked.
Yeah, they're not linked. So now I'm going to take, oh, it's not. I'm still looking at channel 3. So channel 3 has 5 milliseconds of delay. There's no delay on channel 4, which is right here, which is our right speaker. So now we have a delay on left rear, no delay on right rear, and I'm going to go back to the basic tab, and you can see the EQ is basically set flat. We have no EQ going on. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go back to our pink noise. Okay, pink noise. And then I'm going to go down here to our Scopey scope. And here's the left channel. So you can see in the pop-up window, this is our left channel frequency response. And this is straight out of the radio, pink noise running into the key with, obviously it's almost flat because we don't have any EQ going on. None of the built-in stuff that we created to fix. And then I'm going to show you the right channel. And you can see basically it's the same thing. It's basically flat, and that's the right channel. But watch what happens when I do left plus right. So now what I'm asking the RTA to do is take left channel and right channel at the same time, put them together, and put them up on the screen as a combined output. And I want you to see what happens on here. So when I do left minus right, look what happens.
Yuck.
That right there, what you're seeing is what's called comb filtering. And comb filtering is when you have an interaction of different frequencies that can either be additive or be subtractive. And what you're seeing here is because the same pink noise is going through both channels at the same time and one has been delayed, you're going to have frequencies where there's going to be additive and you're going to have frequencies where it's going to subtract. And this is how we can kind of show you what's going on and why time delay and why all pass filtering is so important to remove, because you want to get rid of that suck out. It's not a suck out because of frequency, it's a suck out because of time or phase, which time and phase are actually talking about the same thing. It's just two terms talking about almost the same concept, but they're not identical. One has to do with timing and one has to do with phasing. Correct, John?
Yeah, basically.
Basically. It's the same thing, but totally different, but it does the same results. So
completely
this allows
the same,
you
but
to
totally
actually,
different.
Yeah, completely the same, but totally different. So this allows you to see the comb filtering that's going on. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go into, now John, what do I do to get into programming mode?
Yeah, hold it down again.
Okay.
We're going to assume that we haven't changed any of the inputs so that we're not clipping any longer.
Right. Well, I just goofed up. I think I put it into programming mode again. I'm actually, how do I exit? There you go. Okay, I'm
you're going to get
so
to
now,
LED 4. With LED 4 lit up.
So I want to hold down for how many seconds? 6 seconds or
just
4
go to
seconds?
LED.
So Knight Rider. Okay. Go to LED 4.
And that's where you're going to actually get out of the setup mode. So push it and hold it. Okay. Now it's ready for setup mode now.
Okay. So now walk me
you
through
were in
that.
the
What do we do
setup
here,
menu,
John?
which is where you can turn on and off the all pass filter corrections and the time delay and the level adjust. So you can actually turn those on and off from that setup menu you were just in.
But they're already on by default, correct?
Yes, they are all on by default.
So I'm going to go in here. So that means that's on because it's solid.
Yep.
That's on because it's solid.
Yep.
That's on because it's solid.
And that's actually, if you hold it now, it's your reset mode. Since you're on the third LED, that's going to be reset. So if you push it and hold it, that takes you to that factory reset. The first LED. So, and since you've reset it, it's probably not gonna. We're gonna have to go back through the setup again to get it correct for the time delay.
Absolutely, yes, we absolutely will. So I'm going to exit this menu. This is where you can turn those options on and off.
Yes. So the first LED tells you that you either have all pass filters or time correction on. The second LED, if it's on solid, tells you that you actually have a level adjust that's being enabled. And the third LED is the full factory reset. The fourth LED takes you back into the normal operation.
So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to hold it. Right. So now I'm going to hold it down longer. So there's Knight Rider 1. There's Knight Rider 2. So now we are at the part right here, John, where we're ready to start, correct?
Yes.
So now press the button.
Yeah.
Or we just start the...
We're going to need to run clear back through the setup process with the test tones.
So let me go back to number 4, and that is our gain match. So as you can see on here, let me find my screwdriver.
Hey, there's clipping. Imagine that.
Imagine something in Kip's hand clipping. You must not have heard that. What do you think, D?
Actually, you're now in the next mode, Kip.
Yeah, I did. I messed up.
Yep, you're in noise
It's okay.
floor. And hey, this is your 4th time of doing this, so it's understandable. And
I'll
as
get
we
it right
stressed
on my
before-
5th try. All right, here I'm gonna unpower it actually and just get out of that mode. Power us back up.
And that's another way to do it. Yeah, I noticed now you're gonna have to go back and set the gain.
Right. So let's do a reset. I just want to do a reset so I know we're starting from scratch.
And thank you everybody for hanging on with us. Good grief, we're already at 9:30 and you guys are still hanging out. You guys are troopers.
Yeah, I want to cover this one feature here, John, then we'll call it a night on the show. All right, so now we're ready to go. Press and hold. Knight Rider 1. Knight Rider 2. Okay. So, gain match.
Yep. I think by the time we're done, my bladder's going to need a gold star, too. That old man bladder syndrome.
Okay, now, John, at this point right here, don't I have to hit the button to start the programming? Start the gain match?
Yes, you have to go to the noise floor track.
Well, no, I mean for gain match. Don't I have to actually press the button to start it?
Actually, you should be in gain match mode right now. Yep, see, there's your clipping. Left and right are clipping. Channel, or the last LED is a right.
Okay, still clipping. Hold on.
Wait 10 seconds.
Still clipping.
And once again, you have to use the gain match track, guys, because it does sweep from 20 to 20K, and you don't want it to clip at any frequency. Now you're ready for the noise floor test.
Okay, so I'm gonna put this down so we can get a close-up on this right here. As you can see, we've got it set. There's no clipping for the left or right channel, which is indicated by the last 2 LEDs. And so now we're ready to go. So now what we do is we actually advance to the noise floor track.
Press the key button.
Then we're going to press the key button, and it's going to find the noise floor.
As soon as that LED switches, go to the next track, which is full test. Okay?
Now we're ready to go to full test. And so now we're on the full test track. And so now what it's doing is it's going in and doing the same thing it did before in our original test, but now instead of trying to defeat the EQ, we're actually having it go in and look for the time alignment, and you saw it in the comb filtering. And what's cool is once this corrects it, we'll be able to show you on the RTA exactly what it corrected for and how it's gone. So it's pretty cool. It's running right now.
And it basically will start with the second LED, then the third one, then the fourth one. So it'll do in sequence. Yep. And I want to stress to everyone that it does this automatically. The reason Kip went through and reset it and is doing this separately is it's much easier to show you guys just for example purposes with a flat EQ. But it is going to correct this and the EQ and the signal output level. It'll do it all at the same time automatically.
It will do it all at the same time, but it's hard to show it doing the equalization correction and the time alignment correction at the same time. So if we show them separately, you can see how it does one, it does the other, and then you know that it'll just do both of them combined. It's just part of its function. So right now what the key is doing is it's thinking and it's analyzing and it's figuring out what needs corrected in this signal. It's checking the EQ, it's checking for all phase filters, it's checking for time alignment. It's doing all that work right now, figuring out what do I need to do to find out what needs corrected.
I do have two observations from this. One, from the key lock presentation, is that car manufacturers should not be allowed to design and tune their own system. That's the first thing. The second thing I learned is we all need a John Mayer to FaceTime while we're doing an install, so you can be like, no, you don't do it like this, you do it like this.
I think Kip's doing a heck of a job, to be honest.
Kip's the man.
I feel a little silly doing this live because I really don't have any experience running this, but I felt good about it knowing that this was John's demo and that he would be here and could correct anything that we might get wrong along the ride. But I really felt that this demo, doing it live, would let people see exactly what the key lock does and what the key technology will offer for them. And I didn't feel there was any other way to show this other than doing it live.
And it's very hard to explain the process of and the features of the key lock. It's a very complicated device on your guys' end, not on the user's end.
And it's like anything else. Once you do it a couple times and you get the process, it's pretty darn easy. And I'll be honest with you guys, it's been 4 or 5 months since I've touched a key lock. So I'm actually glad Kip is there doing it, so I don't have to look like an idiot.
I am so glad I can be your Huckleberry. I'm glad for that, John. You know, the good part is, obviously, and I've peeked at them a few times, but I did print out the owner's manual, and everything that we're going through is detailed. And for anybody watching that wants to know a little bit more about the key and how it operates, just go to kicker.com. You can download the owner's manual. It walks you through everything basically it does. Probably not as deep as we've talked about here tonight, but it does show you the button presses and how you get into the different programming modes for the key and what you can do with it. So it'll give you an idea of what to expect when you get into a key. But as you've seen from the first demo, what it does for the audio signal out of a factory system that's, you know, really got the signal pretty butchered up, it gets you back to a flat signal and does a great job doing it.
And we should also stress that, you know, if you want to put your own DSP processor after this, by all means, go ahead. I mean, whether it's one of our key processors, you know, the 200 or the 500 or anyone else's, you know, full-on user, you know, adjustable DSP, this still is an absolutely critical product to use at the start of the signal chain. So you have that baseline to start with so you get a good result.
Yeah, we got a comment that just threw it up on the screen. Yeah, it is an impressive piece. I mean, we're actually very proud of what the key lock does. Our engineers here have really outdone themselves. And again, you've seen the key 200.4, you've seen the key 500.1, you've now seen the key lock. I would say we're not done with key technology. I think there's probably going to be some really cool things coming that you're going to want to see. And like I said, this is the channel, this Unmasked Live weekly show that we've started doing. Whenever we're ready to talk about new products and new technology that is coming out, we're going to release that right here on this show. So this is the place to find out about not just the existing product and how to get the most out of it and the application, but anything new that's coming, we're going to talk about it here. So while we're waiting for this to finish up here, John.
Well, real quick, Kip, let's point out another feature that this has that we've all forgotten about. It does have a switch 12-volt input, or it does work with DC offset. But even with DC offset, it's got the blue remote lead out to trigger other products, just like we do with the rest of the FIT input technology. So it has both a 12-volt input and a 12-volt output, as well as the, you know, power ground and battery lead.
So just like Dereck was talking about with the key 200.4, if you put the key lock in, that remote out can be there to trigger any other products you have downstream of the key.
Absolutely.
So with that said, let's give Robert a chance. I mean, he's sitting there, been kind of good. Dereck jumped in and gave one away. Robert, how about you tell me how we're going to give away a t-shirt to some lucky winner? It's going to be the first person with the right answer in the StreamYard feed, but what is the question?
All right, I'm going to give him a softball here. What was the maximum output voltage of the key lock?
Oh, that's a good one. What's the maximum output voltage of the key lock? First one in with the answer on StreamYard is going to get a Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirt. So what do you got?
All of it.
I'm watching the feed. I want all the answers.
It's got all the output volts.
Yes is an acceptable answer.
Is that Michael? Was he the first one?
I see
That's
Michael.
who I think.
I'm thinking too. I think Michael's the first one with the right answer. That's what I'm seeing. So Michael, hopefully I get your last name correct. Daleen. It looks like you're the winner. So what I need you to do is reach out to Bill. He's here in the live feed underneath Kicker, but contact him through social@kicker.com. Give him your t-shirt size and your shipping address. We cannot use a P.O. box. I always specify that because if we put a P.O. box in, it just gets rejected. So we need an actual physical address. Get that information to Bill, social@kicker.com, and you just won yourself one of these fantastic, or maybe the word should be funtastic, Kicker Unmasked Live t-shirts right here. You just won one. Congratulations, Michael.
Yeah, I don't even got one of those.
Yeah, neither do I.
Awesome.
Yeah, those are sweet.
Those are sweet, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, see, I do have Kicker shirts. No worries there, but
You do. I see you wearing Kicker shirts all the time, Robert. So I think you do wear Kicker shirts quite a bit.
yeah.
I mean, why wouldn't you? It's clothes. You got to wear something.
Yeah. Hey, man. When people send me free clothes, I put them on, especially when they fit right.
So obviously this is taking a little bit longer, so hang in there with us. This is still doing its crunching mode. It's still working on it. The guys in engineering, I spent some time talking to them today, and depending on what the key lock has to correct and how much correction it has to do, this could be a process that takes anywhere from 4, it could be as long as 20 minutes. But that's an extreme case where you're dealing with a lot of all-pass filtering, a lot of time alignment, and a lot of equalization. They said that typically the test like this doesn't take between about 4 to 8 minutes is what they say is what you usually see as far as a time frame for this thing to finish. So I'm watching here. We still have the full test signal running. The key is still working on it. So I'm hoping it gets its...
Hey, Kip,
yes, sir.
While that's running, I did want to bring up a point because I think sometimes we may over technicalize. Is that a word? I just made it up. We sometimes skip the basic parts, right? So in this case, there was a question earlier I saw pop up. Somebody asked, is this designed for a factory radio or an aftermarket radio? So we know the answer here, but I think we should probably explain. The key lock is designed for...
Stay right here, Ernie. Don't change screens yet. So the answer to your question, Dereck, is this piece is designed to, it will work with a factory radio and it will work with an aftermarket radio. The thing to keep in mind is what the key is doing is really trying to correct for equalization, time alignment, and all phase filters or all pass filters that are already in a system. And most aftermarket radios simply don't have those pre-programmed in that you can't defeat. Even if it did have those features, you could turn those off in an aftermarket radio situation. In the radio that comes stock in your vehicle, there's no defeating the all pass filters. There's no defeating their equalization. There's no defeating the bass roll off. You can't do anything about those. So in a stock situation, this product is a must to get a clean signal out of that radio. In an aftermarket situation, I really can't give you a justifiable reason why you use a key lock with an aftermarket radio, because any of those features that we're bypassing in an aftermarket radio either A, don't exist, or B, can be turned off. And I know that you're right, that does seem like a simple question, but really, unless you've got something to add in there, John, I can't think of anywhere where this would really be needed in an aftermarket radio situation.
The only reason I could think to add it to an aftermarket radio is if you're really that salesman that just once adds $100 to the extra ticket.
Right. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch over to this. And as you can see, when it Night Rider's back and forth, when the key has done all of its programming and it's done, it goes into Night Rider mode, and that means it's done and it will start passing signal out. What you simply do then is you reach down, you press the button one time, and that accepts the programming and locks it into place. So now all the processing that the key just performed is now locked into place. And what I want to show you, this is just the left channel coming into our RTA. And as you saw before, you didn't see anything other than basically a flat line because it was just the left channel. And then I'm going to click over. This is the right channel, and basically the same thing. You're just seeing the flat channel input. But remember, when I summed them together, because of the time delay, you saw the comb filtering going on. Now watch when I click left plus right now.
Now, you notice how the output level increased too.
The output level increased because we're adding two channels together, so the overall output goes up. But where's all our comb filtering at now? It's gone.
Hey, it's like the comb that Dereck and I need. No comb.
Don't worry, I'm almost there with you guys. Just give me a little bit of time. I'll be joining the hair no club for men. But this here is the final one, and I really wanted to get this one in tonight if we could. And this shows how this unit compensates for all-pass filtering / time delay, because you can see what happens is when, like John spoke about earlier, if you've got one section of your output, even if it's just a few bands, that the phasing is flipped, and then you try to play those at the same time or combine them with the other channel, you're going to get those comb filtering effects. So whether it's time alignment or whether it's all-pass filtering, the key lock removes those and takes those out of the equation. And so I just think this is a fantastic demo. Now, I've got both channels up on the screen and you can see them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bypass the key. So I'm going to hit the bypass mode, turn the key processing off, give it a second here. Oh, you know what, John? I actually have to go into the other menu to turn off that, don't I?
Yeah, you do.
Okay, so walk me through that here.
And you might actually adjust the RTA graph response.
Sure,
it's
I can do that.
Actually running off the screen.
No problem. Hold on a second. How's that?
Yep, that's much better. So go ahead and hold that key programming button in until it goes Knight Rider up. Now let up on it. All right, so now that LED is on, telling you it is correcting for the time alignment. Push that button for 1 second and release. Now let up. Ah,
boom, there it is.
It's no longer correcting for time alignment, and now you see what it does to that graph.
So that's the graph that we started with originally. You can see the comb filtering going on because that's both channels combined, and now the correction we've turned off, and now I'm going to go ahead and turn it back on. Boom.
Now, you know what we could have done, Kip, just to mention to you guys, we could have adjusted the output level and made it a little off as well. And if you push the key programming button, just push it and release it once quickly, it goes to the next LED. That would tell you that it's correcting for the mismatched output level, which
Correct.
There was a little bit. I mean, it's on, so it's telling you it has corrected that somewhat. But by holding that button for 1 second and releasing it, it would now basically turn off the level match adjustment.
Right. So
But
now
there's
if I
not
go back,
enough. I mean, there's such a small level mismatch, you can't even see it.
I mean, there's the left channel by itself. There's the right channel by itself. There's a very small, very small mismatch. But you're right. The key did detect it and correct for it.
It's smart enough to correct things we can't even see or hear.
And then I'll go back and I'll hold that for a second and turn that back on. But I'm going to cycle back around because I think that's impressive. So here you go. This is with the correction in place that the key did. And I'm going to hold it for a second, turn it off, and boom, there it goes.
No one can touch that.
So I'm going to hit the button one more time, let it correct, because I think it's so cool the way it does that. There we go. So with that said, we have run long on tonight's show. We've actually violated Kip's principle of 90 minutes, but I really wanted to get that final demo in with everything we had going on. So I apologize, we've run a little bit long tonight, folks. But if you have any questions about the Key products, any of them, drop them into the social feed. Our guy Bill will pick those up. He'll forward them to the appropriate people, or he'll answer them himself. We'll send them all to Dereck and Robert. Tonight's the special guests, Dereck and Robert, get all of our questions. But with that said, I do want to wrap it up. Dereck, you got anything to add real quick?
Thank you guys for giving us the demo here and showing us the Key products. We had a great time. John, you are a walking encyclopedia of product knowledge. Thank you so much for that. And I learned a lot tonight.
I'm here to have fun and help everybody else.
Yeah, I learned a lot about the products and what they do, so it's a great time. Thanks so much for having me. Make sure you check out the links that Bill's provided so you guys can get entered into the contest to win the quad box and some other fun stuff. Thanks again for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dereck. Robert, you got anything to add to tonight's festive affair?
No, but I will be calling you or John on my next install FaceTime so you guys can help me. If that's fine.
Hey, look forward to it.
You know, thanks, Robert, and then bring John up here real quick. Pull me out. I get enough of that there, John. You know, I just want to give props to John. You know, John, thank you for taking your evening tonight and coming in. I know you had to be in a separate room than we were here, which made it a little more fun for all of us. But man, they call you Dr. 12 Volt for a reason. You've spent a lot of time in the industry, and I can respect that. I mean, I've been in it just about as long as you have, and
Yes,
I really appreciate you joining us tonight and help answer some questions. And I hope everyone here got some great information by having John join us tonight. I just can't say enough, John. I'm glad you're doing well, and look forward to seeing you back on the floor.
Like I always tell people, ask me anything. If I don't know the answer, I'll make it up, and you'll never know.
you know, I'm not going to go there.
It's been fun. But like I say, it's been my honor to be here.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. We will definitely have you back on some future shows when we talk about some stuff. I think people really appreciate that.
Cool.
And with that said, everyone, that's a wrap up on tonight's show. Again, I apologize. It ran a little bit long tonight, but we did want to try to get that last demo in. And of course, when we're doing live demonstrations like this, it's kind of hard to time how things are going to go and how things are going to happen. But I think it was fun. I think it was informative. I think it gave you a really good insight into the power and the ease of use that exists in the KEY 200.4, the KEY 500.1. And if you're going, you know, I need to get an unadulterated full range signal out of my radio so I can do what I want. Doesn't matter what factory radio you have, you add that key lock into there, get your signal processed out, and you've got something great to start with to get a fantastic sound into your car. So with that said, we're going to wrap up tonight's show. I'd like to thank Tim. He, you know, I saw some of the comments here. People talk about, you know, hope you're getting paid overtime. Man, we're doing this for fun. There ain't no overtime. We're just having a good time. But we're going to come in late to work tomorrow. So Tim, thank you for running the camera. Ernie, as always, fantastic job on the video switching. And Jeremy, thank you, sir, for handling the StreamYard feed. And of course, Bill, he's up in an office or offsite somewhere. He's handling all the social questions. Thank you so much, Bill, for joining that. Join us again next Tuesday night, 7:30 Central Time. We'll have a teaser video coming out tomorrow to let you know what we're going to talk about, but it should be fun. It should be interesting. You never know what it's going to be. So from everyone here at Stillwater, Oklahoma, Stillwater Designs, the home of Kicker, have a good evening, everyone. We'll see you next week.